Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video coming out at a weird time because we had like a 4-hour stream, and then I had to get this video done and ready to be released, and it's gonna be a super long one, gonna be like a podcast style video, just kind of a hangout talking about Diablo Immortal with one of the most knowledgeable people on planet Earth about Diablo Immortal and what it is gonna be like for all of us when the game launches, in my good friend Echo Hack. So what I want you to do is go over via the links down below and click on the link to go to his channel, and then click that red subscribe button over there on the right side, because he is going to be a go-to resource for this game for sure. For any of you out there that like RPGs or just like staying in the loop on new games in general, that's going to be a great resource for you for sure. So this is just going to be a long video of our casual hangout with my good friends Cold Brew, Darth Micro, and then Echo Hack also. So bouncing some ideas and some questions from the chat and from us, just kind of having a fun conversation about Diablo Immortal to stay in the loop on that. So that's going to be what this is. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. Well, no, my goal for this was just to hang out and talk content and talk, you know, the launch of Diablo Immortal, maybe answer questions from people in the chat and kind of talk whatever people want to talk about. Just kind of a casual, fun discussion for us all to touch base on different questions we have. It's a great opportunity to have someone who was super knowledgeable in the beta and gonna be crushing it in content, and Echo Hack that can kind of answer a bunch of questions and give not only us but some of the viewers some perspective, and then I can maybe like edit this for a YouTube video, and you all are welcome to use whatever footage you want as well. It doesn't have to just be me, so we can just kind of hang out and talk about what we want to talk about for a little bit. Was kind of my goal.
So about the new Metroid game then.
That's right. That's right. So I guess, like, first off, no, not Night King. No, I mean, we're just all kind of playing it by ear. And, you know, but is Diablo Immortal going to be probably the biggest game we've seen come out since what? Maybe New World?
Okay, so
yeah.
Let me characterize this for you. So going into Diablo Immortal Tech Alpha, December 2020, I was thinking, you know, played Diablo 3 for almost a decade. Played Diablo 2 for almost 2 decades. Let's give this a shot. Let's see what they built. I've met Papa Wyatt in person a few times. Like, they've got to build. They've got to had something interesting here, right? Gave it a shot, and at first it was skeptical. You know, like, how are you going to put a Diablo game on mobile? How is this going to work? And what I very quickly realized within about 2 hours is that this is a console level game or a PC level game that just so happens to be on a mobile device. Was kind of my very first impression. Like, this is a very deep game with a million different systems that has all the same features as a Diablo 2 or a Diablo 3, but actually it's better than that. It's just better than Diablo 3, right? It's just straight up better. So I grinded the Tech Alpha like 250 hours. It was very surprising. I was not expecting to walk into the Tech Alpha and grind it out, right? I was just gonna give it a shot. And I think a lot of people had that same impression. They walked in the Tech Alpha, like, we'll give this a shot. We'll see how it is. So at that time, there was a little bump in sort of community sentiment. Well, people who were paying really close attention to the community went, this game is going to be good. But not a lot of people noticed. Like, only people who were really paying close attention to the community. In other words, people who are like in the live streams every day, people who are other content creators, other things like that, kind of picked it up at that point. So then closed alpha comes around, and then we get to see some of the end game. We get to see the Cycle of Strife. We get to talk about the Immortals and the Shadows, and people are starting to really. It gets another little bump. Closed beta comes around. A lot of people are live streaming the game now. I live streamed Becoming the Immortal. They added basically a whole nother expansion to the game just in a few months, and that got a whole lot of traction as well. And then more and more traction is happening. And then they announced that there's going to be a PC client. And things are absolutely bananas now. Absolutely nuts. to the point that I think this will probably be the biggest ARPG game ever made. Bigger than Diablo 3, bigger than Diablo 2, bigger than any other previous ARPG game. And a lot of people might be surprised to hear me say that, but I think this is probably going to be the biggest ARPG ever made.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that, and I do think that's a big statement because I think Diablo 3 is like top 3 all time. It's like Minecraft, Diablo 3, like those kind of games are up there. But I actually do agree because
if we're including Minecraft as an ARPG, Diablo Immortal's not.
No, I just
be
meant like
Minecraft.
PC. No, I just meant like PC games. Like if I pull it up, Diablo 3 is up there.
Forza 3 Horizons is honestly the best ARPG I've ever played. Right next to Minecraft.
Yeah, I guess I got it right here. It's PUBG, Minecraft, and then Diablo 3.
PUBG's...
Yeah, Diablo 3 is literally third. Like if you Wikipedia.
Really?
Yeah. Top selling PC games of all time. Yep.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I pull it up here. I'll put it on screen.
I believe you. I'm gonna pull it up here. Top selling. I'm gonna dox myself with my search results here. Top selling PC.
I get the impression that there's probably a big gap between Minecraft and anything else.
Yeah, well, PUBG is actually bigger in terms of copies sold. PUBG is 42 million, Minecraft's 33. Diablo 3 is 20 million. I want to say it was like 5 million in the first 24 hours. It was something ridiculous for Diablo 3.
Or Diablo, yeah.
I believe they pre-sold 9 million copies or something like
that.
It
was something crazy. Yeah. And that was back, 12 years ago or whatever.
Dude, I think that's when I was working at Best Buy, and like the pre-orders for that was insane. The line going out the door was like all day long for that stuff. I actually remember this.
Yep.
To put this into perspective, Diablo Immortal has a pre-register campaign where if you click the pre-register button and you get notified for it on the App Store. They had a campaign that if they hit 30 million by launch, that everybody would get a brand new cosmetic in the game. They hit that like 2 weeks ago. We still got a month.
Yeah.
That's 30 million. So if 20 million is the number of Diablo 3 sold, 30 million is pre-register already for a free-to-play game.
It's going to be like 100 million.
It's going to be a 100 million pre-register, and then however many people are going to pick it up after launch because their friends are playing it, whatever.
But it is worth the context of Diablo 3 had the same thing, but it was a bad launch and it kind of crashed pretty quick, and then it actually became a good game. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen with Immortal. It's two completely separate things. I think Immortal is going to be a lot better on launch because it got delayed. So I think a lot of that risk is mitigated. I think them adding the controller support and for sure the PC client is going to mitigate some of that risk. But I think you think even back then if it launched, it would have been fine.
Let me characterize this for you. You guys have you played World of Warcraft?
I have not.
Even a little bit.
Yeah,
all right.
Since Burning Crusade.
So if Tech Alpha was vanilla WoW, then closed alpha is basically a whole expansion, right? It's Burning Crusade. And then the closed beta is basically Wrath of the Lich King. And the, however you feel about Cataclysm, like content, I'm talking about content, right?
We don't talk about Cataclysm.
Yeah. So like, just imagine a fourth good expansion. And then that would be basically what we're going to get for release. So basically, we're getting this game, and it's already got like 4 expansions on top of it. There's an insane amount of content for, especially for a mobile game. Like, people are going to play this game as a mobile game. They're going to approach it. There's going to be a lot of people coming from the mobile space, from the raids and the
yep. It'll be on a nice bridge. Yep.
They have no idea what they're coming into. It's a massive world. Now, people who are like WoW veterans and they've played every expansion, you're not going to walk into like a game that has like 20 expansions on it, right? It's a brand new game, but it does have a significant amount of content, a surprising amount for a brand new game.
Okay, cool. I had a viewer say Diablo Immortal will be for mobile, will be only for mobile, right? No, it will be cross-platform. You'll be able to play it on PC as well, but it will also be featured on mobile. And then Ford asked, what is one of the biggest pitfalls of character development when starting a new character?
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, I guess to add some color to the first.
Sure, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It is a mobile game. Right, so it's targeted towards mobile. It's designed for mobile. The UI is for mobile. So there's a PC client that will be launched. The PC client will be in open beta when the game launches. And the PC client is just a tweaked version of the mobile client, right? So it's got these very big UIs and other things like that. So to be clear, it's not like a PC designed game with like floatable windows all over the place and all this kind of thing, right? So if you can play it on PC, but it's still like this mobile designed kind of game. So that's the experience, right? I guess.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that for sure.
Yes. And then in terms of character development, one thing that is tough for this game is that at launch, you're basically locked into whatever character that you pick, right? Now you can go back and start another character, but the way all of the systems of this game work, you're never going to want to have an alt, and having an alt is a very challenging task. Now they are introducing down the road a system called class change, which will allow you to change your character's class and sort of migrate all of your upgrades and stuff to a new class. But they've indicated that's going to be sort of an infrequent thing. Like this isn't Final Fantasy 14 where you can just like swap classes on the fly or something like that, right? This is going to be a thing where you're like, all right, I want to switch to this class. There's a very long cooldown and I'm going to be this class for a long time, right? So I would say that's kind of the biggest drawback, is that you kind of have to know what you want to play, and until that first big patch drops with the class change feature, you're kind of stuck if you're unhappy.
Okay, cool. I've got a bunch of questions, but I want to let you guys jump in if you would like to. I don't want to hog the mic here. So Cold Brew or Darth?
I was gonna say something, Brad. I was gonna say we got Cold Brew over here. He hasn't said a word the whole time. You seem to be thinking, God damn it, Brad, again.
I know.
I'm just listening. I'm just listening to what Echo is saying.
I'm an open book. I will tell you anything you want to know about this game. Literally anything. Like I even have like guesses about like how the code is written. Like I haven't seen it, but I can guess. I can make a good educated guess.
I got a question then.
We can go as deep as you want.
Right. You ready to go deep? Necromancer versus Wizard. Who am I playing? Because that's the hard one for me. I've been going back and forth on this. I watched your Wizard guide video.
Yep.
Did you have the Necromancer one up yet? I didn't see that one unless I missed it.
Yeah, I'm editing it right now, and it's going to be the best guide ever. It's going to be amazing.
Okay. Great. Link in the description below for all the people watching later.
Yeah.
Link in the description below.
Yeah, we do need to put your links down below for sure. Let's throw massive amounts of love to Echo Hack for taking the time. I'll find those links while you guys are talking. Yep, go ahead.
So two things. When you say Wizard versus Necromancer, kind of like what are your priorities?
Okay, so I'm going to put it this way. I want to look at it from, I was going to say two, but really three perspectives. First and foremost, where does the fun come from each of them? So when you're playing them, where does your burst of enjoyment come from, right? You know how like if you're a sniper getting that headshot real quick when you're a first person shooter, that's where you're going to get your enjoyment from, right? So that's number one for me. Number two, how does the actual gameplay style in terms of what you're repetitively doing over and over again feel like between the two? And then three, is there actually a massive power difference balance between the two currently, or do they both feel different rows, etc.?
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about Wizard first. So Wizard is this ranged class. It's a primarily ranged class, right? So you're not really getting into melee range most of the time. There are some, we call them battle mage style builds that get into melee range, which are pretty interesting to play. But for the most part, all of your abilities are fairly ranged, right? So you're going to be playing at range. And that means you're a little squishier. That means you need to dodge and be aware of like where your opponents are and that sort of thing. So like you would play any sort of ranged class in any sort of Diablo game. So that's sort of the first thing. Is like you have that ranged vibe under characterizes everything you do as a wizard. Second thing is you have spell combos, and wizard has this more than any other class. There are combos for other classes, but I think wizard has the most of this than any other class in the game. So essentially, like, let's say you drop a meteor on the ground will start burning, and then you drop arcane wind, and because arcane wind is a wind spell on top of a fire thing, it will synergize, and you'll do 50% more damage when you're casting it on top of it. So you set up these combos to like increase your damage, and not only that.
Follow-up question: did they copy Breath of the Wild? Is there a lawsuit incoming? And put the elements all together. You don't get this reference? Did you play Breath of the Wild?
I did. I don't think it copies Breath of the Wild. No.
It's more of a meme, but it's that style, right? Like
it's got that
elements kind of.
But that's not the only thing. So what's interesting? So that's sort of like the solo version of it. It's like I'm comboing my spells, right? But the group version of it is you're setting up your group members' combos, right? So you drop the meteor on the ground because you know your Crusader or whatever is going to drop their ability, which then combos with your thing. Ooh. So it's all about kind of setting up these big combos, these big like wombo combo kind of things. They have an ability called Black Hole. It's one of the best grouping abilities in the game, as you might imagine.
From Diablo 3.
Yeah. Except this time it's a lot more useful in this game, I would say, than D3. In the sense that when you group things together, the AoEs just pop off because then you can just drop down all the combos on top of them. It's really great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you would do in D3 too, though. I think, if I remember correctly.
Well, Black Hole had different runes. There was some of them that like grouped them up better. There had a bigger radius. There was some that like made them do less damage. Some that made them take more damage. They all had kind of different roles.
Mm-hmm. So in D3, essentially, that job is actually filled by the Barbarian, and what the Barbarian is doing is called pixeling enemies. And literally, what you're doing is you're taking every enemy and you're putting it on the next pixel next to each other so that you can optimally hit all of them. You're not going to be pixeling anything in this game. The hitboxes are designed a little bit better than Diablo 3. So in an interesting way, grouping abilities like Black Hole are actually more useful than just having a Barbarian stomp in the middle of your group and pixel everything for you. Like,
is there area damage like how there was in Diablo 3 with the splash damage, which is why it was so beneficial to group them up?
Okay, yeah. So for those who don't know, area damage is a Diablo 3 specific mechanic that when you do damage to one target, it will make a very tiny invisible AoE that will do damage to other targets. And probably the most important thing to know about it in D3 is that it causes a tremendous amount of server lag. So usually groups turn it off. Like they usually optimize their gear.
I remember that.
It's not even on your gear. So that's not in this game because I think that mechanic causes server lag in general.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty good to hear for the long-term functionality and keeping things smooth, especially for people that don't have the blaster to your phone or something, for being able to still enjoy the game.
So if you want to do an area of effect damage thing, you have to use an area of effect damage spell or ability. Wizard is really all about sort of these kind of things. They have teleport as their movement skill, so they can have like this instantaneous burst of speed. And I guess they're just really great for kind of grouping things up and blasting things down with AoE at range. So Necromancer is kind of it's a similar genre as the Wizard in terms of it being ranged, but it kind of approaches everything from the exact opposite perspective, right? So instead of laying down these big combos, having big ranged spells, blowing everything up. As the Necromancer, you're going to be doing a lot more kind of like standing back, managing your minions, and then occasionally going in and doing these like short to mid-range spells where you're debuffing or you're trying to like get some extra DPS in on the opponent. So it's more of like a pet class style build, but it's really interesting how they set it up. So, like in Diablo 2, everybody knows Diablo 2 Necromancer. It's very iconic.
Yep.
In Diablo 2, you have these active abilities where you go to a corpse and you summon the skeleton, and you go and you summon these skeletons, and then the skeletons just kind of AI and do their own thing. And sometimes they're wonky, and there's like 20 things on the screen, and they're just like doing whatever they want, and they all bump into each other, and it's kind of a chaotic mess, but it's really fun. In this, it's a lot more strategic. So like, if you have an ability on your bar, it will just automatically summon the skeletons when it can. You don't even have to do anything. The skeletons will just
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a lot more.
You'll get
Yeah.
them. So what you're actually doing is you're like focusing the skeleton's attacks. So you're saying, hey, go DPS this thing instead of just like whatever you want, right? Or you're grouping them up, right? So like you can get like a fire golem, and you can say, hey, I want to drop this fire golem on this group of enemies, and it'll just do this gigantic AoE kind of meteor style thing, right? And leave like a burning ground, which by the way you can also combo, right?
Okay.
The other thing you can do is there's certain abilities. There's one called Dark Curse. You could use Dark Curse with a certain legendary, and you can buff all of your pets together as well, right? So you can group all of your pets, right, strategically. You can be like, hey, you go here, you go here, you go here. Then you drop Dark Curse, and then now they're like 80% faster for 6 seconds or something like that, and they're just mowing everything down. Now the drawback to that is to sort of the pet-centric builds of Necromancer is that at the very, very, very top levels of play, when you're doing challenge rifts and that sort of, or like PvP, the pets kind of fall off in usefulness at the very, very top levels of play. But definitely for somebody who's just approaching the game from like a casual to even semi-hardcore perspective, you can steamroll the game with pets. It's crazy. In fact, my opinion is that Necromancer starting out like that, for someone who wants to really start out a character, Necromancer probably has a better power scaling curve because of pets and because of the way pets work and tank damage and that sort of thing. But that's I would say maybe like 10-20% better than any other class in terms of like that kind of power scaling. At least what we saw in the beta, I'd say. They might have nerfed a few things, tweaked a few things.
And do we know about that? Have they balanced? Have they done any balance? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but do we know?
Yeah.
Have they changed anything since the beta?
We do. That's a subject we can get into, but that's pretty technical.
Yeah,
So,
I know there's a lot to get into, but I'll let
yeah.
you kind of wrap up your thought. Sorry.
So the other style of Necromancer that you can play relies a lot more on sort of their spells and corpses, right? So when you kill enemies or when your pets die, they will leave corpses on the ground. And those are a special resource that only the Necromancer can use. In fact, only the Necromancer can even see them on the floor, right? So you see them and then you can consume them. So like there's corpse lance, for example, which will take a corpse and like turn it into a lance and fire at an enemy. Or there's corpse explosion, which you might be familiar with. But there's also legendaries that modify all of those things, right? So there's a legendary, for example, that will like the corpses, instead of exploding, will like ooze poisonous gas and like just poison everything and do this big AoE like damage over time kind of thing, right?
Cobra looks like he hates that. He's up there just angry.
Yeah.
He can smell the corpses from here with his new nose after the surgery.
Cobra's a monk kind of player.
No, I played Monk, but I was mostly Witch Doctor and Crusader in D3.
We can talk about Crusader. Last thing I'll mention is that in PvP, Necros are kind of a stun machine, or a CC machine, right?
Oh, no.
They have these gigantic towers of bone that they can just drop on the battlefield. And if they drop it on top of you, you'll get knocked up into the air like 2-3 times and then stunned and then knocked back and then damaged. And then anybody who's not in the immediate area when that happens, it just does damage over time to like an area. So you can like zone out entire parts of the battlefield with the bone towers. You can stun people with bone spikes. And more than anything, you're really like a support PvP class. You're not really focusing too much on doing like a lot of damage. You're more just trying to CC things so that your team, the people who do the damage, can get in there and like just wreck.
Do you feel like he's very, because of that, do you think he's very ping based? So my question being between Wizard and Necromancer, since the reason I'm asking so selfishly this question so much, because like these are the two I'm like sitting here waking up in cold sweats, like I really want to play a Wizard, but the Necromancer has ginger hair, you know what I mean? It's like I'm having to go back and forth here. And so do you think there's a world in which you could imagine that some of these classes are easier to play with bad ping? Because I know I'm from Alaska, so I know there's other people probably that are going to listen to this in the future in the VOD who are like, well, every game I've ever played, I play on 180 ms, and I wonder if I can even play these classes.
That's a good question. So I feel like Wizard is way more technical than the Necromancer. In fact, on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? So Wizard extraordinarily so is a lot of like skill shots. So like you really got to get that black hole in the right place. If you do disintegrate, you really got to aim it at the right pixel, or else you're not optimally hitting all the enemies that are coming at you. When you teleport, if you teleport the wrong direction or you like bump into an object or something, like, well, you just failed to initiate on your enemy in PvP and now your team's going to get wrecked or something, right? So it's pretty technical. So I would say, to answer your question there, Wizard is probably more susceptible to ping than Necromancer. Necromancer can kind of sit back, let pets tank and do things, and you can cast, you can say, hey, attack that, hey, buff the pets, hey, let me drop a bone here, bone tower here, let me do some bone spikes here, that sort of thing. So you're doing a lot more support activities as a Necromancer. In fact, I should have mentioned this up front. Necromancer is one of the better support classes in the game. In fact, I think Crusader's the best support, but I think Necromancer takes a very close second, like very, very close second.
Thank you. Thanks for answering the question, man. I appreciate the
of course.
long drawn out.
Yeah, would you say Necro is the best like beginner class if somebody's like never played a Diablo game and they're just kind of getting into it?
I can't really tell you if there's a best beginner class. There's a lot kind of baked into that qualification. I think it's more about if you're gonna have fun with it or not, right? So if you're like, hey, I don't really like the idea of summoning a bunch of skeletons and just like sitting back and being the support guy, I want to get in there and do damage, then you should go play a Barbarian. You know what I'm saying? Right. But if you're like, I want to play that Diablo 2 summon Necromancer, this is the other opinion I have. This is the best Necromancer that we've seen in any ARPG. It plays great. People love this class.
That's good, because Necro is always, I'd say like Necro and Barbarian are like the two that people tend to gravitate towards, I think. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what it seems like.
I've seen some numbers of some like polls that have like thousands and thousands of responses, and you're actually 100% correct. Barbarian is number one, and Necro is a close second.
Very nice, very nice. Then, Cold Brew, did you want to get in there and ask anything?
I was just thinking about PvP. Is it just server based, or would you think that they would have any cross-server PvP in the future?
We're talking about PvP. So, Cold Brew, the thing you need to know about this game is this game has more PvP than any ARPG ever made, and in fact, it has more PvP than a lot of games that I've ever seen. The end game for this is mostly PvP, and when I say that, it's not. So let me clue you into some very contextual Diablo community stuff. Way back in the day in Diablo 3, one of the big topics right after Diablo 3 launched that everybody really wanted was this idea of PvEVP, right? Where you're doing PvP, but you're competing against someone else, but sort of indirectly, right? Like you're not fighting them directly, but you're like, they're doing an activity, you're doing an activity. You both get a certain amount of points for fighting monsters. Whoever gets more points wins, kind of thing, right? There is a ton of PvEVP in this game. And then there's also direct PvP, which has really high stakes. Like literally being like, to give you another WoW analogy, if you want to become High Warlord, you have to beat everybody on the server, kind of thing, right? And that's what, by the way, that's what the Immortal is you're the president of your server. So to get into your specific question, is it server-based PvP? So almost all the PvP is server-based. You're not gonna, there's no like, and for that record, like even PvE, you're not like doing Dungeon Finder, Raid Finder cross server. You're doing that all on the same server. There's no like vendor you talk to that's like, hey, group me up with random people from anywhere in North America or anything like that. It's all based on your server, right? So there's a trade-off there, right? Trade-off is, one, you kind of build this really strong community. Like you get to know everybody on the server. You're going to see the same people in the dungeons. There's going to be these stories. There's going to be drama. There's going to be trolls. There's going to be all these kinds of things and that's really interesting, right? The trade-off there is that if you're on a low population server, your experience is not going to be the same experience as someone who's on a high population server. And you want to be on a high population server probably most of the time because there's more players, there's more groups, there's just more going on, right? And this is every MMORPG. This isn't news to anybody. So there's one exception to this, and that's Battlegrounds. So Battlegrounds are these 8v8 matches that occur, and those have region-wide matchmaking. And so you'll get like similar ping times and that sort of thing. And I think they do region-wide matchmaking there just because they want people to have very, very fast queue times.
Okay, cool. So it is going to be kind of like New World and Lost Ark, where you've got like, these are the servers on North America, these are the servers on Europe, and you kind of want to pick the same one as like your friends. Is that what we're kind of thinking it's going to be structured like?
That times 1,000. Because this game has some social systems. And in fact, some of this news is like brand new news that a lot of people don't know. I haven't even done a video about this, so you're getting to hear, maybe not first. If you're paying very close attention, you would have seen some of this stuff. So there's two main social systems in this game. There's clans, which I think a lot of people already know about clans. And there's warbands. So clans are kind of the big social system. It's like 100, 150 players. We don't know the exact number quite yet until launch. And this is like the big faction versus faction PvEVP kind of a super in-game stuff, right? And then there's warbands, which warbands in beta and alpha did absolutely nothing. And we had no idea why they even exist in the game. In fact, our feedback to Blizzard was like, get rid of this. This is dumb. Like, nobody's using this. So they're 8-player groups, right? And 8 is an interesting number because the end game Heliquary bosses are 8-player raids, and when you party up in this game, it's 4 players, right? So you have 2 parties essentially, and you merge them together, right? So what we figured out recently from a data dump is that the warbands are going to be fairly valuable now. And you're going to really want to be in a warband. So essentially what a warband does now is while you're in a group with a warband, is you have a chance to drop like a chest that you pick up. And the chest, when you open it, goes to a special loot storage just for your warband. And then you can go to that special loot storage and you can borrow one item from that loot storage that you can use. amongst all of your warband members.
So it's like a clan within a clan?
It's like a little mini clan.
Yep. And can you like swap people out, or is this kind of like a group you create from scratch? And
you can swap people out. The caveat there is that if somebody leaves the group, any of the loot that they found that was contributed to the warband storage goes with them. So, you know, you can't just... Hold on. You can't like... In other words, you can't do like exploity things where you like, let's say you have like the biggest streamer in the world and they're like, hey, I'm going to have everyone just like feed me loot. Like you can't do that.
So it's not like a guild bank where someone can like ninja the guild bank. That's what I'm wondering. Or is it like
you borrow it, right? So, and again, by the way, this is all like very early stuff. We haven't actually seen this happen in the game. So I'm speculating, right? But the text that we read in the data dump says you borrow the loot, and that if somebody leaves the party, they take all the loot that they contributed with them. It's all gone. So if you borrowed an item, you don't have that on your character anymore. They took it with them.
Okay. So that's where I was going to wonder, because I was going to get concerned about. I mean, you know how it is with these type of games where it's basically black markets of people that go and they sell, you know, items, etc. through other people. I know there's not really a market or any way to trade or anything like that. I was wondering, like, there's no way they're going to implement a way of being able to actually get the items from one person to another, I would assume.
Yeah, they're fairly smart. In fact, like they've done some other things to sort of like protect against, you know, for example, someone making 100 accounts and then like, you know, botting them all up and then funneling resources to the market or something like that. They've done some things to protect against that. Okay. So that they're really smart in terms of like how the like trading and systems of this game work. But because of that, there's I guess I'd say because of that, the trading and the marketplace in this game is pretty like narrow, right? So you can't sell loot ever. You have to find all of your loot. You can never buy loot. You can't, even with real money, you have to find it, right? And most of the stuff in the game you can't get at the marketplace. The only stuff you can get at the marketplace are legendary gems, skill stones, and normal gems. And I think that's everything. I don't quote me on that. That might not be exhaustive, but I think that's it. And even those, there's like a lot of rules about which one of those is like sellable or not. Like a lot of them will just automatically bind to your account depending on how you acquired it, right? So it's even like, well, I got this legendary gem, but I got it from the free legendary crest instead of like one of the ones that I paid for, and therefore like I can't transfer it to another character because then someone could make 100 bots and do that or something.
Yeah, just like we saw in Diablo 3 when they shut down the auction house. Yep.
Exactly right. So they've been very careful to avoid a Diablo 3 auction house fiasco kind of situation.
Yep. I remember in the early days of Diablo 3, you were better off to spend $5 than to play for 5 days because the market got so flooded that you could get GG items for 74 cents. And
yeah. Remember that mace that sold for like $100 the first day and then like $6,000 the next day?
Well, there was an Echoing Fury that sold for like 8,500 euros.
That might have actually been. I don't remember what it was.
Insane.
And David asked in the chat how much inventory we can carry. I know in like Diablo 2 there was mechanics where you have charms and your inventory fills up super fast. And in Diablo 3 it was a lot bigger. You could carry like 48 things.
This game is even more than that, and the philosophy here is very different, right? So just do you know what a bag of holding is?
A bag of holding?
Yeah. So in Dungeons and Dragons, there's this thing called a bag of holding, and it's a magical bag that when you put stuff in it, it weighs nothing. Like the bag itself will weigh a set amount of weight regardless of what's in it. So let's say you have a 50-pound bag of holding, then you can just put a ton of stuff, and it's just a magical like warp hole that you can just dump like a house in, right? Like it's insane. Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on here in this game. Is you have auto pickup So if you run over items, and it's a mobile game, right? So this makes a lot of sense. If you run over items, you just pick them up automatically.
That's
no
good to
matter
hear.
what it is. It just goes into your giant bag of holding inventory, and you can carry a ton of stuff in there. There is a limit, but you can just pick up stuff for a very, very, very long time. And then when you're done with that, you go back to town and you go to the blacksmith, and you take your bag of holding and you dump it, and there's an entire city block worth of inventory that comes out of your bag of holding, and then you salvage all of it with one button, and it just turns into materials that you can upgrade your stuff with.
So you played some D&D, I can tell over here. You're laying some low key jokes about some D&D.
We had another question come through in the chat that says, "Will whales be able to have a clear advantage over free to play?"
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's good to characterize what that advantage means. So this game has absolutely no like time-based energy systems, stamina systems, any of that. There's zero of that, right? So like if you're free to play, you play the game for 24 hours a day, and you're good to go. As we said before, there's no way to even buy loot in the game. So whoever plays the most will have the like loot drop advantage there, right? So you can't buy your way into loot and gear. There are a couple of things that you could progress your character further by purchasing. So there's all these like little systems in the game. The first one is normal gems. So again, this is something you could buy from the marketplace, right? So you could go to the marketplace, you could use platinum, which you could buy with real money. And then you could use normal gems, and you could upgrade these normal gems to get just a little bit of stat bonus. It's not a lot, but you can make your character more powerful with real money, right? It's not a ton though. And then there is something called Legacy of the Herodrum, which you have these things, they're called vessels, and you can upgrade them with Beryl, Sapphire, and I forget the last one off the top of my head, but you can progress that using platinum every day, and again, that gives you a little bit of a bonus. Then the final system that you can really kind of make your character more powerful with, and the one that I think a lot of people are concerned about, is legendary gems. So legendary gems are extraordinarily powerful, and they give you a ton of power, and they're essentially kind of like gotcha loot boxes, but you have to run a rift to get the gems, right? So you buy what's called a legendary crest, you plug it into the rift, and you can plug in up to 10 at a time, and then when you do that, you get a couple of resources. The first, you get something called Fading Ember. Fading Ember is something that you can use to buy more legendary gems or runes, like it's like a crafting kind of thing. And then you run the rift. It takes like, depending how good you are at the game, like 2 to 4 minutes, something like that, to run the rift. And then when you kill the boss at the end of the rift, you have a chance to drop certain kinds of legendary gems, which, by the way, I have the gem drop chances. If you're interested in that, we could talk about that.
Always.
That's sort of new information as well. And then you have sort of like a loot box mechanic as soon as you kill that boss, right? So you get the legendary gems, they drop on the ground, and then legendary gems can be salvaged for gem power, and then you can upgrade those legendary gems. So I think of any of the systems that you should watch in terms of like, I'm really concerned about pay to win in this game, which I think that's kind of where the question is going, right? Is I would watch legendary gems really closely and see what they do with it, because I do know there's some more changes coming for launch.
Okay, cool. And a question I get a lot is like, what's like for the different tiers of spenders, what is, people don't know if a whale in this game is going to be $100 a month, or like the game we come from, Rage to the Legends, a whale can be $2,500 a month. So like, like what is that spectrum? Like somebody that is ranked pretty high and pretty serious about the game, is that someone who spends $100 a month on the game, or like $1,000 a month on the game?
So yeah, this is a this is a very difficult question because there's a lot of information we don't know yet in terms of how they've rebalanced legendary gems from the beta. In the beta, legendary gems were extremely powerful, but my guess, and this is highly speculative, is that they've nerfed those gains a bit. Not a ton. I want to say I'm guessing like 20% here based on some like things I've seen. Yeah, I think that's going to be impactful. In terms of the amount of money, like that's really hard to call. But I will say this, right? Like as you upgrade your legendary gems, there's sort of like a soft cap. I think, by the way, rank 10 is like the hard cap, so you can't rank them up past rank 10. But as you rank them up, you get less and less, I should say, it takes more and more resources to level them up, right? So the amount of money that it takes to like get a 5 out of 5-star legendary gem to rank 10, which would be like, I've beaten the game and now I'm gonna quit the game because I'm bored and I, can't get any more progress on that part of my character. That would be tremendously expensive, I think. But it would also be extremely difficult to get to. And I don't even want to hazard like how much money it would cost to get a 5 out of 5 rank 10 legendary gem, but we're talking about like in terms of like orders of magnitude, we're talking like $10,000 or more.
Should I buy a car or should I do that instead? Because my car just blew up on me.
Definitely focus on the car. And
wrong answer, Echo. God damn it! It's Diablo Immortal. It's all
here's the reason I say this, because the people like me who know everything about this game and are going to blast the game at launch are going to be able to beat the whales by getting better loot and by grinding the mechanics of the game. So the flip side to this is that you can actually, to some extent, let's say, because typically how this works, right, is a whale, they don't play the game as much. They're buying power because they're not playing the game as much, right? Obviously, all things equal, right? Like someone who spends $100,000 of the game and plays, 16 hours a day, and somebody who plays 16 hours a day, person playing $100,000 is going to have an advantage, right? But that's not reality. Reality is like this person plays 30 minutes in a day on average, and this person's playing 16 hours a day, right? So can the person playing 16 hours a day compete? And I think yes. I still don't think, based on beta numbers alone, I still don't think it was quite fair. But free-to-play people can get an advantage just by getting better loot, because there's literally no way to get better loot except to play the game. And let me characterize this a little bit. So folks coming from Diablo 3 will know about ancient and primal ancient loot.
Yep.
And essentially this is loot that has ancient loot has a 1 in 10 chance of dropping. If a legendary drops, it's 1 in 10 chance of being ancient. And then primal ancient is like 1 in 400, right? And primal ancient is like completely max stats, right? So this game has, I don't actually know the actual drop rate, but I'm guessing it's around 1 in 20 chance to have 1 in 10, 1 in 20 chance to maybe it's 1 in 15. Yeah, let's say it's 1 in 15. 1 in 15 chance to be exceptional. And what an exceptional item does is it can roll additional attributes. So normally when a legendary item drops, it rolls 2 primary attributes, which is just sort of like the power mechanic, and then it rolls 1 special attribute, which is like your 6% extra damage to players, like 6% cooldown reduction, like that sort of thing, right? In Diablo 2 parlance, we'd call that like a magic affix, right? So if it's an exceptional item, the first thing that happens is like freaking awesome. You identify the item, and there's a toast. I don't know if you know what a toast is. This is like game design parlance at this point. There's a toast on the screen, and it says exceptional item, and it's awesome because you get excited. Yeah. You're like, oh, I found one finally, right? Like I've been grinding for an hour and a half. I got an exceptional item. Let's go. So an exceptional item has a chance to roll up to 3 primary attributes and 3 special attributes. But it can roll less than that, right? So it could roll 3 primary and like 2 special, or it could roll 2 primary and 2 special, or it could roll 2 primary and 3 special, right? So what you want is you want an exceptional item to drop, and then you want it to roll triple, as we call it, right? So the chances of you getting exceptional, like 1 in 15, the chances of you getting triple, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500, like very, very, very rare. And what's really cool is you'll instantly know it's a triple because this game has a little up arrow system that will tell you if an item more or less is better for your character.
Is it accurate? Just real quick, because I know that's something.
It's pretty accurate. At the very top level of play, very, very top level, you'll still want to be like kind of looking at the details, right?
Right.
You don't want to just like blindly trust it.
About specific builds at that point, right? Kind of.
Yeah. You're really like, okay, how do I do this? And you're like, you got your Excel spreadsheet up, you got maxroll.gg, and you got like our build tool and like all this kind of stuff going on, right? So at the very, very high levels of play, you're still doing that, right? But more or less, like, you got this thing. So what's really cool about this is that most of the time, and when you first start out the game, you'll see one little green arrow, right? And be like, oh, this is an upgrade for you, right? But when you got a really big upgrade, you'll get more than 1 green arrow. You'll get like 2 green arrows, and you'll be like, oh, I got 2 green arrows. When you get a triple, you can get up to 4 green arrows. Right?
Oh my god, the dopamine that they would unleash.
It's insane. And it's so rare. Like I said, it's like 1 in 1,000, 1 in 500, and you probably won't even see these until you're max level, right? So we're talking like you just did 30, 40, 50 hours of grinding, and you might see one of these. So when you see one of these, you see the 4 arrows, and you instantly know. You don't even have to look at the stats. You instantly know you got something amazing.
I love that. Personally, I think it's a big deal.
All of that said, someone who's grinding the game could outfit their character with all of these triple stat exceptional items that take so long to grind up and get, and that gives you a tremendous advantage that might bring you up to the same point of someone who's like spending tens of thousands of dollars but only playing the game a little bit.
But yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it's, from what I hear, can you correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the game is designed for people who are going to be playing like the average amount of hours, but you can play infinitely, and it's slowly diminishing returns your experience to a point where there's like a base floor.
Exactly. Yes. Let's talk about that. So,
didn't they remove that?
No,
like
that's still in the game, but they changed it. So,
right.
Let's talk about this from like a game design perspective, right? So, Maxroll, the folks the other content creators that I work very closely with on Diablo Immortal and other Diablo games, just completed an amazing achievement, and they got the world first Season 1 Diablo 2 Resurrected ladder placement, right?
Yeah, and, I saw that.
Teo did this with the help of our entire team and the community, grinding out for like 8 days straight. I think some people slept over the course of 7 days, slept like maybe 20 hours, right? Like absolutely insane levels of grinding, completely like legitimate, like no like account sharing or botting or anything like this, right? And and Llama just got it yesterday as well.
Yep.
So that's awesome. So I think he got second. I'd have to double check.
I think you're right. Yep.
But the bad thing about that is that you play 150 hours in a week, and then you have nothing else to do in the game. And so, that's pretty unhealthy, right? Like, you're gonna damage yourself as a human being, because human beings are only capable of, you have to sleep, you have to eat.
Now you're talking Darth's language. He's sitting up in his chair. He's ready to go.
There's
I'm fair about that when the game
love
launches. I don't know about sleep and stuff.
Bro,
yeah.
To sleep, coming straight from the underground.
But
Jinja.
If as a game designer, if you overemphasize overemphasize the grind and you don't have some sort of like content release schedule, then basically what's going to happen is you're going to grind out to 7 days, and then that's the end of the game. You're done. You have nothing else. You have nothing else to do. You have no other goals. You're kind of bored at that point, and then you quit, right? And there's no reason for you to keep playing. And so this is why Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 have seasons. And this is why every content creator in Diablo 3 sees at the beginning of the season, they see like a couple of thousand people on their stream like this. And then a couple weeks later, you're back to the hundreds or maybe even less, right? So this is a problem from like a game perspective because there's nothing to keep doing. There's no treadmill. There's no grind that's interesting, right? There's just this like go really hard and then right? And I think what they wanted to do with Immortal was take that and kind of just like wear level it a little bit, right? So like you're grinding still a good amount. You still have a lot of loot chase to go do, but you're not the beginning spike is not quite as spiky. It's still spiky at the beginning, but it doesn't drop off as you go on, right? And Immortal does that really, really well. And the way it does that is through a whole bunch of different systems. So the first system, probably the biggest one, is called World Paragon. And the way I view World Paragon is it's a content release schedule. And it's baked into a lot of things in the game. So essentially, the server that you're on has a Paragon level. Those of you who are familiar with Diablo 3 are familiar with Paragon levels, but those who aren't, let me explain that real quick. Once you hit the maximum character level, you can continue to earn additional levels that give you like some minor benefit, right? So you're not going to get new skills for your character or anything like that. You're not going to do any new unlocks, but you'll get like a little point that you can put into like a little tree that you can invest somewhere and get a little minor benefit, right? So the server now has a Paragon level, and every day the server automatically levels up to Paragon levels. And based on your Paragon level relative to the server Paragon level, you will either get an XP bonus or you'll get an XP penalty, right? And so let's say you're 100 levels behind the server Paragon. You just heard about Diablo Immortal and it's September 2022. All your friends are way ahead of you and you're like, crap, I gotta catch up, right? You're gonna get something like 800% XP bonus. And you're just gonna blast through levels. You're gonna just 8 times faster than anybody else. Until you reach the server Paragon level. So once you hit the server Paragon level, then you're at that 100% XP mark, right? And you stay, and then every level that you get after the server Paragon level, you get less and less and less and less and less till a certain point, and we think the point is about 17.5% XP based on some math that we've done. Where it's theoretically impossible to actually level up further. It would take you, based on the highest XP we're aware of in the game at the moment, it would take you more than 24 hours to hit the next level, and therefore by the time you hit the next level, the server Paragon would level up again, and so you can't really progress past that wall, right?
Quick question, just for clarification here on that.
Yeah.
Does the server Paragon level get dictated by time, or is it the average Paragon level of all the people on the server? Because then it would be affected by pay to win overall. I think that's an important clarification.
Time. So on day 1 of the game, I believe the server Paragon level will either be Paragon 0 or Paragon 2, one of those two. And then every single day, so there's a server reset at 3 a.m. server time. So when that server reset happens, the server goes up to Paragon levels. The server, like, think of the server like a character, right? So the server levels up to Paragon levels, and then now you have a little bit more runway for your character to go up. Now this is really important.
And tell me if this metaphor is correct real quick. Is it sort of like, just to try to explain it for a way and make sure I understand for my monkey brain here, is it sort of like a Mario track where we're racing the ghost? Let's say they set a ghost on the track. If you're behind it, your engine goes faster, but once you get ahead of the ghost, it starts slowing you down. Is that roughly what I'm hearing?
Yeah. It's kind of like playing Mario Kart in general. Yeah, so like if you're in first place in Mario Kart, you have an advantage, right? You have a significant advantage. And if you're really good at the game, you know how to outrun blue shells, and you know how to, throw bananas behind you advantageously to like avoid the red shells hitting you and all this kind of thing. But it's way harder to stay in first than it is to get in first again, right? So if you get a star and bullet bill, like whatever, you might be able to just speed past and get back into first, right? So it's very much like that kind of mechanic. Yeah. So the server Paragon is also important for loot too. So every time you level up, like your Paragon level, the loot that drops in the world has higher stats as well. So the people who, even though it's really hard to stay in first, being in first comes with advantages of having the chance to have better loot than people who are just being lazy and not playing the game, right? So the way they've balanced this is to kind of say like, hey, we want people who play the game a lot to be ahead, right? The blasters, we want them to be ahead. We want them to feel extra powerful, but we don't want them to have infinite power so that if somebody new comes to the game and wants to play with them, like a friend that just heard about it, that it's impossible for them to catch up and that they'll just never reach even close to their level of power. And, they have to get power leveled, for 200 hours straight in order to even like be even close to catch up. And even then they're only playing a support role and they're not having a lot of fun, right?
Okay.
Yep.
You're explaining this well, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate the insight. Do you think there is, because obviously one of the most common questions you ever get is like, are they ever going to lean into like fresh reset seasons, or is this going to be like 5 years from now, something they're still just kind of snowballing and progressing on?
This is a really good game design question. So every single MMO that's ever been made does one of two game progression systems. They either scale the numbers infinitely, so your Diablo 3s, your Lost Arks, right? The numbers just get bigger and bigger and bigger until like they stop putting the number on the screen and they just say like 5M, or then it's 5B and then it's 5Q. Like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger forever. Yeah. So there's sort of that philosophy, and then there's the philosophy of like World of Warcraft, where every 2 expansions you do a stat squish and you do a level squish. So, you were level 120. Well, level 60 is now the best level. You were doing 1,000,000 damage. Now you're doing 1,000 damage. Well, 2 expansions go by and you're doing 1,000,000 damage again, and so we got to squish it back down, and this sort of thing happens a lot. And both of those systems have dramatic drawbacks. The first one is it's impossible to know what anything does, right? You look at your gear and you're like, this gives me 200% bonus, and this is multiplicative with the 30,000% bonus, and this is additive with the 550% bonus.
Yep.
And you just have no idea or any sense of scale of like what's going on. So you go to max roll, you look up the build, you put it on, and you have fun, but you're like, control as a player is like robbed from you, right? So you're like, I found a good item, I think. Actually, I don't know. Hold on, let me Google search it, right? And in fact, actually, it's trash, and you got excited for the wrong reason. So that's a problem. The other problem with stat squishes is that every 2 expansions you go, well, now I just got nerfed, or I don't feel as powerful anymore, or like my character, I was killing Ragnaros 4 expansions ago. Why are we killing Ragnaros again? Like, like you have these moments that you're just like, it sort of removes the illusion of an RPG, which is to grow powerful, more powerful, more powerful. So what Diablo Immortal does at its core is it has a mechanic, which, by the way, the name of this mechanic is probably changed now. It was called ORDR, offensive rating, defensive rating. Now it's called CR, which is I even forgot what it stands for.
Just stuck on the fucking Ragnarok.
Yeah. It's basically like power, right? And so every primary attribute you have on your gear contributes to your power, right? So let's say you have 1 strength on your gear, you get 1 CR on your stat sheet. So you have 10 strength and you have 10 fortitude, that's 20 CR on your stat sheet.
Like character rating or something?
Combat rating. That's actually what it's
okay.
called. I remember now. Yeah. This is a new thing, right? This is something we found in the data mines. Which is good because ORDR, I didn't like that terminology. So combat rating is way better. So what's really cool about this is combat rating is a percentage damage increase or damage reduction relative to the monsters or other players that you're fighting, right? So what's cool about this is the damage numbers are always normalized. So if you are underpowered, then you're always going to be doing an underpowered number, right? And I can tell you, like, what the number is. Like, there's a hard fixed number. It's so cool, right? So I know if I walk into a challenge rift and I'm doing 100 damage a shot, there's almost no chance I'm beating that challenge rift. It's just that's way too little damage, period. Because my CR is like too low, no matter what. That's a hard wall at that point.
So you're not going to waste your time, and then you're at the end, you're going to be like, well, I'm an idiot. I guess this ain't happening.
Yeah, I mean, and also it gives you those moments in combat where you say, I actually did a lot of damage, right? So like, let's say you're doing an average, you walk into a challenge rift, and you walk into a pretty challenging challenge rift, and you're doing like 900 damage a hit. Right? That's still a pretty hard challenge rift. You might fail it a couple times, and if you're a really skilled player, you'll demolish it if you really know what you're doing, right? But that's very hard. But then you hit something for like 5,000 damage, you like did an amazing crit, and you're like, whoa, okay, let's do more of that, right? And it gives you this feedback from the game that I haven't really seen done too well, except in between expansions in like World of Warcraft, right? If you just played vanilla WoW, right, that doing like an 8,000 damage crit is amazing. It's insanity, right? But then as soon as Barbarian Crusade comes out, like now 8,000 damage is nothing. Blah blah blah.
People
blah,
are getting one shot by Palm Pyro, yeah.
Yeah, and those numbers don't mean anything anymore, right? So because this is a sliding scale, the numbers always mean something, like always mean the same thing.
Yeah, so the numbers are normalized.
They're always normalized.
Well,
this is kind of a complex thing to explain, but like the whole game is really balanced around this thing. Like the whole game really functions around this thing. So ultimately what that means is that you're probably never going to see a stat squish. You're probably never going to see them take stuff away from your character. They're going to be able to just like grow the systems. They're going to be able to add on new things to the game. They're going to be able to continue to get better and better and better loot. But on the flip side of that, people who are new to the game, who are coming to the game a year late, are going to have some significant catch-up advantages, right? They're going to have 800% XP catch-up. They're going to be able to level up so much faster that gear that you grinded really hard for, well, now they just like ballooned past that, and they're able to catch up with enough. They still got to work for it, right? But they're going to be able to catch up to you in some respects, right?
Okay, cool.
It makes sense.
Yeah, that I want to transition maybe to like, because and really quickly, Ford asked, do you think PC players will have an advantage over mobile only players? I guess we'll touch on that just real quick because I saw that in the chat.
Ooh, maybe not. So there's actually 3 kinds of players in this game. There's touch controls, there's controller controls, and there's keyboard and mouse controls. So there's 3 different ways to approach controls. The touch controls, the severe disadvantage you're going to have is playing for long periods of time, right? So if you want to play for a very long period of time, your thumb joints are not going to like you very much. Yeah. You're going to get hand cramps. all this kind of thing. And maybe this is just because I'm old and
it's not just you,
no, I can definitely relate to that.
But if you're gonna grind 16 hours, like doing this is really tough. Now the trade-off there is that a lot of the abilities in this game are really optimized for mobile. So there's a lot of abilities where you drop an ability on, you drop like an AoE on the screen. Like we were talking about Wizard earlier, right? Like you want to drop a meteor on the screen. In this, in like Diablo 3, you have to like hit the hotkey and then move your mouse and then tap and then click where it's gonna go, right? In this game, you just tap and it's there and it'll go. And there's a lot of like mobile sensitive things. Like sometimes you have to hold it down. So you tap and you hold it down and it charges up and then you let it go. Or you'll want to like, you're in PvP and you have a charge skill and you want to prep it because you know your opponent is coming at you. So you hold it and you charge it, and then as soon as you let it go, the action of letting it go will let it go. So in some cases there, mobile is actually an advantage. But I think overall, in my opinion, overall, mobile is probably the lowest tier of the 3 control movements, just because of like the hand cramps and that kind of thing. But it's also the most convenient. You can play it on the bus, you can play it on the couch, you can play it at your friend's house and have a little like mobile LAN party kind of thing. Like you can have that going on for you.
Yeah.
Controller has a significant advantage in terms of movement. So this game has 360-degree movement. So whenever you move the joystick on a controller, you can move in any direction. It's not just like 8 directions, right? And that gives you a lot of little subtle positioning things that you can do with your character that the controller is a lot better for, in my opinion, than keyboard and mouse will be, or touch will be, right? So the joystick there is a significant advantage. The trade-off is that a lot of these skills, these skill shots that you have to aim, you use the second joystick, and sometimes rotating the joystick all the way around on a skill shot is like time expensive, right? Because you don't have a mouse, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of the trade-off of controller. But controller is also the nicest of the 3 options on your hands, right? And you can play it. You can also, there's these mobile controllers like Razer Kishi, Backbone One, all this kind of thing. You can also play that on the bus and on the couch and all that kind of thing. So I think how people are actually going to play this game, the super hardcore players, right? They're going to go and they're going to go turn their PC on, and they're going to play for like 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours on PC. And then they're going to get their phone and they're going to go to the couch and they're going to play 4 more hours, right? So I think the best way to approach this is to do both, actually.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's good, because that means it kind of appeals to multiple different ways.
One of the things I did with Future Revolutions, like you can screen share your iPad or something and just play with a controller from that, you know, stuff like that.
Nice. Okay. Well, one thing I want to make sure that we touched on today, because it's obviously the most important thing everybody always asks about, is if we could go through the classes just real quick.
Of course. Yeah. This is so pop. This is the topic.
Yeah, because people are gonna be, especially because you said it's such an important choice. People are gonna be like having questions like, what if I pick a character and a week later I'm not happy, or 3 of my friends are playing the same character and we want some diversity? How rough is it to switch? And then what's the optimal party? I think parties are 4, warbands are 8, that type of stuff like that. So what are the optimal? We have to have a barbarian. We have to like just you. I'll let you kind of take the floor. You obviously know way more than I do.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing I'll say is I'll do a shameless plug here, is that I've been doing a series that goes in depth on every single character class over on my YouTube channel.
They're good, by the way. I'll plug it for you. They're good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're actually good for you.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to provide those links, definitely.
And if my explanation here doesn't convince you of one class or the other, like head on over there, and these are like 25, 30-minute videos that goes in depth to every single one. Let's start out with Barbarian, right? So Barbarian is this high AoE damage melee playstyle that you have. It's sort of like a fast and blast is kind of how I describe it. It's got a huge threat in PvP. We think it's the best PvP class in the game. That has some color to it that we'll talk about in the social systems and grouping, because PvP in this game is group-based, right? So when we say best, that means you still need a group to support you. So you can't just have like 8 barbarians and hope to be successful, right? So they have a lot of crowd control options, and they have some great group buffs. The trade-offs are you're in melee range, so you take a lot of damage. You have low single target damage. A lot of your damage is very AoE oriented. You're reliant on long cooldowns. And when you're in very, very difficult content, being in melee range is instant death. So in very, very difficult content, you're going to fall off in terms of your ability to do stuff. So yeah, that's Barbarian in a nutshell. We have, next up, we have Crusader. Crusader has the most AoE damage of any class in the game. They have a wide array of PvP skills. I'd say they're probably number 2, like a close second to Barbarian. They have effective party-wide buffs, probably the best support class in the game. They have probably the best defensive skills in the game. And they have really, really fast movement speed. They literally have a horse they ride around. It's their main thing. They just ride around on the horse and destroy everybody with it. The caveat
really?
there, yeah.
That's amazing, bro.
It's the best thing about the Crusader in D3. Just running around.
I know you have like
all
the stun, like a quick dash thing, but do you get used to the horse like a decent amount?
Yeah, it's even more than D3. In D3, the
attack,
horse,
I think, also.
Dart's convinced.
Yeah. In D3,
no,
the
hell
horse
no, I'm
is
doing
like,
Necro
hey, I'm here and I'm doing damage and I want to go there. So let me get on my horse. I'm gonna go there, right? In this game, you get on the horse and you ride around and you do damage, and then you keep moving and you keep doing damage.
I love it.
And then you get on the horse again, you keep riding around, you keep doing damage, and you're swinging your sword all the time like a crazy wild man.
Badass.
So
I love it.
If you can't tell, I'm a Crusader player.
You got some passion in you there. I thought you get the fire started out of nowhere.
The trade-offs are you have long skill cooldowns. Again, you're a melee class, just like Barbarian, so it's really hard to avoid damage. You fall off in high-end content. Your PvP is really just like one play style. You ride on your horse, that's it. And so everybody kind of knows what you're going to do. And this is really important. Your primary attacks, which is the main attack that every class has in the game, are the worst in the game. They're terrible. So you're going to be doing a lot more support activities as this class than necessarily being the front damage person in all content, right? All right, so let's talk about Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter is kind of, I feel like the opposite of Crusader in a lot of ways. They have, in my opinion, I've been told I'm very wrong about this. In my opinion, they have the highest single target damage in the entire game. They can go up to a boss.
Really?
They can drop bombs on the boss. They can drop like 3 multi-shots. They can, and then they can shoot them all at the same time, and they can just melt bosses. They're incredible.
Really?
In PvP, they're very tactical, right? So you have to kind of stand behind your other opponents, but they do a lot of damage. So you're like super, super squishy. We think that they're maybe one of the worst classes in PvP. It's hard to say what that means for a game that isn't released yet, right? They fight at range while moving. So this is very different than Diablo 3. In Diablo 3, you like tumble forward and then you fire a whole bunch of multi-shots and then you like stutter step backwards, right? Like a Marine in StarCraft or something. In this game, you move and shoot at the same time. So you're moving the joystick and you're holding the attack button and you're moving and you're shooting.
Like strafe.
And you're moving. Yeah. And but not with like a specific ability like strafe, but with all of your abilities.
Yeah.
With all of them.
So you can shoot while moving, like it doesn't lock you to the ground, basically.
Exactly, yeah. It's very, very cool. You have multi-shot, which is probably the fastest and best burst damage ability in the entire game. You drop 3 multi-shots and everything is evaporated. And then its primary attack is probably the best primary attack in the game. It's called crossbow shot, and it demolishes things. It's very, very good. The trade-offs for Demon Hunter is the build diversity is basically non-existent. You're going to be playing like more or less the same build for all the content. Even though they try to have like different legendaries and stuff, there's very obvious abilities that are very, very strong right now. They don't really give good group buffs, so they're not supporting at all. They're doing damage, right? They're not supporting the party really. They're very squishy, so they take a lot of damage. They don't have a lot of crowd control options. And their movement skills are probably some of the worst in the game. You know, they don't have a horse to ride around on. But yeah,
they have to tumble, like tumbling around, like it was in D3.
They have they kind of have that. They have something called Daring Swing, which you become Spider-Man for a second. So you fire, or Batman, right? You fire like a grappling hook and you go like this.
Oh, right. So that's different.
It's not great, so a lot of people just don't use it, and they just put on their tennis shoes and kind of run around. But yeah, they do the most damage, I think, in any PvP content. So
I think that's fair. I mean,
there. Yeah.
If you're not mobile and you do the most damage, it's kind of a good trade-off.
All right, so let's talk about Monk. So Monk has great mobility, and they're just teleporting all over the place all the time. If you're watching a Monk on your screen, you're like, where are they going to go next? I have no idea. They have a pretty high AoE damage. They're very fast-paced, right? So they're going to teleport to a target. They're going to do some damage. They're going to teleport to another target. They're going to do some damage. Then they're going to do a big AoE that teleports to 7 targets all at the same time. And then they're going to pull them all together, and then they're going to blow them up with Exploding Palm or something like that, right? They have some really great shields for supporting your party. So if you're doing like high-end Heliquary content and you are having trouble surviving, a Monk is going to be able to help you out there. Trade-offs there are their melee range, so same problems as Crusader and Barbarian there. They rely on a lot of these skill combos, so in that sense, they feel very similar to Wizard, right? You have to like do this thing, group them up, and then do this thing, and then boom, they all explode, right? You have to do a lot of inputs. So if you're playing Monk, I would really, really recommend you're playing with like a controller, keyboard, and mouse instead of the touch inputs for that. Yeah, and then you really are more kind of like Crusader. You're really more geared towards supporting other classes. So if you're gonna play like solo, like exclusively, and you don't really want to play with friends or whatever, Monk is probably not the class for you. So yeah, the trade-offs.
Good to know.
Necro. Let's talk about Necro. So Necro again is right up there with Crusader. I would put it at second, but it's right up there with Crusader in terms of support. It has incredible support buffs, especially for raids. It has a ton of minions that you're going to throw around the battlefield. It has the best ultimate in the game. This is something we actually haven't talked about. Every primary attack builds up a little meter, and once it's full, you can unleash an ultimate. Their ultimate is by far the best ultimate in the game. They just auto target a whole bunch of like little. It's called a soul fire, and it just hits everything on the field and kills everything. It's amazing. It's a very tactically played class in PvP, like we were talking about a little earlier. You throw these bone towers that are stunning and kind of helping your teammates, and they have a great mix of single target damage and AoE damage, right? So you can throw a fire golem on something and do a big patch of burning fire on the ground that does a bunch of AoE damage, or you can tell your skeleton archers to target one particular target, and they'll do that single target damage, right? So they have a good mix. I made a graph about a month ago that kind of went that went to the top of the subreddit, and I
saw
put
that
Necromancer a little bit too far to the left. I've changed my opinion since then. I would put them dead in the middle of that graph now.
You're talking about the spectrum of single target versus AoE, right?
That's right. Yeah. I would say they're straight in the middle of that. They do good AoE. They do good single target.
And then
trade-offs
Wizard.
there. Wizard is next. We're almost there.
Yep.
So trade-offs for Necromancer. They have a mobility skill, right? But because of the unique way their best builds work, you usually don't use it. So they end up lacking mobility. They're reliant on corpses sometimes. Some of these builds are reliant on corpses. So if you don't have any corpses on the ground, you're not doing any DPS. They swap builds a lot, which can be problematic because you're going back to town to swap a build to do a particular thing. Many of their abilities, even though they're a range class, many of their abilities are sort of like in this mid-range, like short range, and that opens you up to significant risk because you're more squishy than the melee classes. And their class item, their class consumable, we haven't talked about this at all, but their class consumable is by far the weakest in the game. It doesn't.
Oh, really?
Basically, it's worthless.
I haven't even heard of class consumable.
Yeah, I almost think they'll take them out for launch. I don't know. I don't even think they're worth talking about. So let's move on. They're kind of like a nothing burger.
What I wanted to ask you was you were talking about single target versus AoE, and I mentioned Wizard because I wanted to ask, where does the Necro? Again, I gotta go Necro v Wizard because I feel like these are the two compare. Like there's Barbarian and Crusader. I feel like people are gonna pick between. Like there's a certain type of person that's gonna pick between a Barbarian and Crusader.
Yep.
There's a type of person that's gonna pick between a Necromancer and a Wizard. You know what I mean? And so it's like the Wizard I know falls on the probably way more on the AoE side, I would assume. But what I really am super curious about is where they fall on like the overall DPS chart. Like, are they actual DPS gods, or what do they even bring to the table? Because if they're not DPS gods, what the fuck do they do?
Wizards are DPS gods, yeah.
Thank you. That's what I need to hear. I feel better now.
Yeah. So there's also a third person in that spectrum of people. So there's people who are Barbarian and Crusader, which that's by the way, that's my play style. In Tech Alpha, I played 250 hours of Barbarian. And then I picked Crusader once that came out, and I never looked back. And then there's a second kind of person who's going to pick Necromancer or Wizard, and they're going to have a tough choice. And then there's people who were destined. They were born to be demon hunters, or they're people that were destined, or they were born to be monks. And you can never tell them that they're going to play any of these other classes. Like anytime I talk to a demon hunter player, they're like, I am playing Demon Hunter. I've played Demon Hunter in Diablo 3 for 10 years, and in Diablo 2 I played Boazon. That's all I play. I never play anything else.
This is me, by the way.
Yeah, you're talking to one of them.
Yeah. Wizard. They have tons of AoE and CC, like Black Hole, for example. They have these pretty satisfying skill synergies, like skill combos. They have, again, they play very tactically in PvP, but they're more about the DPS than they are about stuns, like Necromancer is. But also, like, that opens them up to more risk because they're sitting there dealing the damage. They fight at range or close up, right? So there are some battle mage builds that you can play where you're like in melee range and you have like these spinning orbs around you, and if they hit your enemies, they explode and just do tons of damage. And then you have teleport, which a lot of people won't feel that teleport is as fast as the Crusader's horse, but it's almost as fast. By the way, we had in beta we had a race between all of the classes to see which ones were the fastest and all this kind of thing. So teleport is actually cool. Almost as fast as the horse.
Can you rank them real quick, 1 through 6, and I'll write it down here for fast, off the top of your head?
There's movement speed, and then there's tactical value, right? So teleport is more tactically valuable than Crusader's horse because it's instantaneous and you can't interrupt the duration of it. You just travel there. That's it, right? So they're hard to rank, but if you're ranking just the amount of distance traveled in X amount of time, right? If that's what we're talking about, then the number one would be Barbarian. Barbarian has sprint and all this, charge, all this stuff. It goes so fast. So if you're just trying to get to point A to point B, Barbarian's absolute fastest. Crusader is second, but the trade-off there is Crusader can do damage while it's doing that, right? So it's like swinging sword and all that kind of stuff on the way. Third, I put Wizard, and then fourth would be Monk, and then fifth would be Necromancer. So when I said that Necromancer has low mobility, that's kind of what I was talking about. It's like they don't have a lot of these dashes where they're running around the battlefield. You're really more reliant on sort of your minions to do things, or like your poisons, bone wall to like zone things off, like things.
Okay,
like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say
little...
I'd say let me finish up Wizard and then we'll go to the next thing. Last thing about Wizard here is they have this skill shot aim, so much like Monk, they're pretty like high amount of input. You want to play a controller, you want to play keyboard mouse. I would say for Wizard, you definitely want to play keyboard mouse, I think.
Okay.
They're pretty squishy and they don't have any group buffs. They're a DPS god, kind of like the Demon Hunter kind of class. So you're not really buffing your teammates, you're throwing down big spells.
What's interesting to me is, because we're sitting here talking about classes, just a little bit of data. The most searched for class out of all of Diablo Immortal is Necromancer.
Of course it is, yeah. It's gonna be, I think Necromancer is special in a lot of people's hearts. It's one of the most beloved classes from Diablo 2. Even in Diablo 3, for the last 20 seasons, it's been, not 20 seasons, but like 15 seasons, it's been
5,000 seasons, yeah.
Most important classes to play if you're doing like group content in terms of like getting Paragon levels and that sort of thing. People love Necro, yeah, I think one of the best decisions they made for this game was to launch with Necro as one of the classes.
Do you think Necro, because here's what's drawing me back. Necromancer was originally, when I saw him, I took a peek at this guy and I'm like, oh great, they just took my face and photoshopped it, with my hair on there, and they added it to the game. So my question to you is this: is Necromancer going to be very boring to watch, you think? Or is it actually got a lot going on? Because what I'm seeing with all these other things are real cool visuals. Wizards shooting stuff. It's fun to play. It's interactive. You can see what I'm doing. Whereas what I'm hearing with Necromancer, it's like I'm sitting there on the gym row, like from, you know what it is? It's, have you seen Game of Thrones where you got the Ice King, right back there with all the Skeleton King, right? He's way in the back. He's just chilling with there, watching his White Walkers kill everyone. And then I walk forward while drinking a beer and collect my loot. Like, is that
my kind of character?
I mean?
No. I don't think it's quite that uninteractive. Like, I would not describe Necromancer as uninteractive. Okay. In terms of gameplay, I'll have a Necromancer video out here real soon.
Oh baby. Okay, so
there we go.
Go to the pinned once again the pinned comment down below in the description link for Echo Hex.
So the way I'd sort of describe this to characterize it for you is, let's say you're in a challenge rift. Okay, you move forward, you start grouping up enemies, they're chasing you, you're like, all right, I'm grouping them up, I'm about to blast them down. And then you summon your fire golem and you drop it on them, right? The fire golem stuns them and does like fire everywhere or whatever. And then once you do that, you walk up to them and then you use Grim's Scythe in sort of short range or you use some sort of debuff in short range. Like you walk up to them and you
that's
like
kind of
scythe
cool
them
though.
And then you've now got a couple of corpses. Maybe you like blow the corpses up or you make them release poison to start doing that continuous damage. And then at that point, maybe you buff your minions and then drop another AoE to try to finish off that pack and then move on to the next pack. So it's not, one of the problems I'll say about Diablo 2 Necromancer is that it's this chaos of like, it's very uninteractive, right? You summon everything and then it just kind of wipes the field. Or you like have Enigma and you just teleport forward and then you poison Nova or whatever, right? Or you Bone Spirit, right? You're just sitting at max range Bone Spiriting across the entire screen. So this is not that. This is like, you got to balance a couple of things. So it's going to be pretty interesting to watch. It is, to give a caveat to that, it is more of a support class, kind of like Crusader is, right? So you're not going to be the number one DPS in your group. You're going to be doing some very important things. You have like a bone shield that if you have the right legendary, it can actually make your entire party immune to 5 sources of damage, which is invaluable in raid content, right? Yeah, that's so crazy. if a boss is like, hey, I'm going to hit you with an instant kill attack, you're like, no, you're not. So it's great, right?
That's actually sick. You're selling it to me right here. And plus you're saying he sounds pretty good in PvP, right?
Yes, as a support. So you really want to group up with folks who are doing the damage again, and someone else is going to initiate, right? The Crusader is going to initiate, a Wizard's going to initiate, a Monk is going to initiate, maybe a Barbarian's going to initiate. You're not initiating combat most of the time, right? You might be able to initiate with like Bone Spikes, maybe. I don't. That feels pretty weak to me. But,
it's not like he's a catcher. Like, oh, there's opportunity. Jump in, you catch somebody.
Yeah,
you know, you stun.
You're not going to catch somebody with a bone tower. But what you are going to do is once that person is caught by that like initial knockback or mini stun, then you drop the bone tower. And once the bone tower is up, your entire team is going to just dive that person.
Everyone's just kicking him. All right.
So you're going to be this. You're going to be the signal that the engagement's going to go well.
Okay, that's you explained that like absolutely perfectly, by the way. Like that's what I was exactly wondering.
One thing we had a question about a little earlier that we didn't really touch on too much was what's your composition, right? Because this is a social game, it's an MMO. You don't want to have 8 barbarians in the party, right? Like that can happen in Diablo 3, right? Where you're like you have 4 necromancers in the party, and that's the best party, right? So this game specifically has a lot of mechanics that rewards having unique classes in the party. One of those is warbands, right? So like warbands is going to give you some sort of random loot. And if you have 8 barbarians in the party, all 8 barbarians are going to want to have the barbarian loot, right? So having unique classes in your warband is going to be valuable for that reason. But also the other reason is your buffs don't stack. So if you have two barbarians and they're both running, you're doing like a group optimized build, then your barbarian buff that allows everyone to do more damage doesn't stack with the other barbarian buff, right?
That makes sense.
So if you have 4 classes that all have a unique buff, then now you're really like you got some synergy going on, and that's working out for you really, really well.
Okay.
And then last part of that is that there's a Paragon Tree. Now this is like you're not going to even be able to hit this Paragon Tree until like 2.5 months into the game. But there's a Paragon Tree where if you have unique classes in your party, you get damage buffs and defensive buffs. So they're really it's kind of subtle, right? It's not like you have to have unique classes in the party or else you can't play the game kind of thing. It's more just like we're gonna give you a little bit more damage here.
They're probably trying to avoid the Diablo 3 rat run, 1 barb, 3 necros, and yeah.
They're specifically avoiding rat run style metas.
Cool. I guess I've been sitting here kind of making notes on screen with everything you said. Is there like obviously, as you know, you're gonna have groups of friends. Okay, there's 4 of us. We're gonna play. What's like the meta composition? If we're gonna be serious players and we want to do well, is there like an actual meta, or is it simply just play what's fun?
Is there a best meta? I think there's a best meta. But I will also say playing what's fun is probably what you should do, right? There's a certain kind of player, though, who wants to play the best meta, though, right? So
yeah, they're called Diablo players.
If you're the kind of player who wants to play the absolute best meta, what I would say is, A, this is maybe beta's best meta, and B, the metas for this game are pretty naive and pretty new, so things can change, right? But this is my currently held opinion, subject to rapid change, getting closer to launch.
Yep, give us all the qualifiers. Collect your own data.
Yep.
This offers is valid in Nebraska and Alaska.
So you want Barbarian, you want Crusader or Necromancer, you want 2 Demon Hunters. That's what I think the best comp is.
So you're telling me Wizard's garbage and no one's going to play it, and I should definitely not play my Wizard class. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, Well,
I think Wizard is also the best challenge drift class. So like, there's a million different game modes, and there's a million different game modes in this game, and different classes at the very top of the meta, different classes kind of hold the crown to those different metas, I would say.
And you're really selling Demon Hunter today, man. You're making Demon Hunter sound pretty good.
Yeah, because you said it's better to kind of diversify, but then you said 2 Demon Hunters. Is there a reason you swayed from that path?
Just
killing bosses. Oh, go ahead.
Is it just the you were gonna say just the bosses, the single target? Is that why they're so good?
Yeah, so killing bosses in this game is a big part of progression, right? So like, the end game is going to be doing dungeon runs over and over and over again. After you do all your dailies and all your other content, you're going to be doing a dungeon over and over and over again. And you're going to be like blasting them as fast as possible, and you're going to be optimizing these runs, right? So you're going to want to, take seconds. You're going to be like speed running these dungeons if you're at the high end of content, right? You're going to be speed running dungeons, and you're going to be like, we did that one in 1 minute and 57 seconds. It should have been 1 minute and 52 seconds. How dare we do it 4 seconds slower, right? So when you have that, then your bottleneck a lot of the time becomes killing the boss faster, or killing because sometimes there's many bosses, that sort of thing. And the Demon Hunter is perfect for killing bosses faster.
Okay. Beautiful. Now, if someone said, well, we want to avoid having 2 of the same, so you go with a Crusader, Barb, DH, and then what would be that flex spot as the 4th?
Crusader, Barb, DH. Either one of the remaining 3, Monk, Wizard, or Necro. If you
it's not the answer I'm looking for here, Echo Hack.
He's trying to put you into a corner so that when
I'm trying to be a journalist here and get it out of you.
Here's what I would
the narrative.
If you have a Crusader in the party, I would not pick a Necromancer in the same party. I would pick Monk or Demon Hunter, Monk or Wizard. And let me explain. So Crusader has a group build, which is on immortal.maxroll.gg, called Holy Fire. And actually it's not there anymore because I just updated the guide yesterday. Sorry guys. It's on my YouTube video. For Crusader.
Which once again can be found in the link down below in the pinned comment description.
It's called Holy Fire. And specifically, it has an ability that you do a buff on all of your teammates, and then for 6 seconds, all of your teammates have this tiny little AoE around them that does fire damage to anything that they're immediately next to. So that ability is tremendously powerful, and even though it's more of like a buff, it's actually your biggest DPS attack as the Crusader in groups. So much so that the whole build is named after it, right? So the Monk, as a melee DPS class, is going to benefit more from that benefit as more than anything else. And they also group things up, so you kind of double benefit from it. So the Monk is going to do Cyclone Strike, group everything up, and then you're going to have 3 melee classes in the party: Barb, Crusader, Monk. They're all going to get this big buff. Like, you're going to drop the buff, and the second you drop the buff, everyth's going to die instantaneously. It's just, bodies will fly across the screen. It's going to be insane. So you're going to have sort of that kind of composition. And the Demon Hunter will be just the boss killer in that group, right? If you have a Wizard, then you're going to be doing more of these combos, right? Where you're going to set up sort of a big group of enemies. You're going to lay down the meteor, and then everyone's going to get 50% more DPS when they combo with that. And then on the boss, you have a little bit more damage because the Wizard's a little bit better at single target than I would say the Monk is, because they can stand at range and just fire magic missile constantly. But yeah, that's kind of your trade-offs there, right? Like, do you want to like just blow these groups up with kind of these combos between Monk and Crusader and Barb functioning as like melee powerhouse, or do you want to have a little bit more of like melee ranged balance in your party? It's hard to say which one is actually better in terms of like time.
How big is the gap between the meta and let's say you got a group of friends that are like, you know what, we don't care about having the meta. We're gonna play a couple monks and a couple necros because that's what we want to do. How far behind will they be? Like, let's say the meta group clears it in 2 minutes. Are we talking 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or are we talking like 6 minutes?
Oh,
like what's the difference? Like, what's the difference between?
More like 2 minutes 30 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, assuming players, you had the same players play different classes, you're gonna play it slower, obviously, but not like 6 minutes slower. No way.
Okay, so there is an optimal setup, but it's not like it's twice as good.
Yeah, and I'll characterize this with maybe the most broken thing you can do with the optimal meta setup in the game, which is do Countess runs or Forgotten Tower. So the Countess has this really cool dungeon where you have to kill a certain amount of her minions in a certain amount of time, and then once you do, it unlocks the boss room. You go in the boss room, you kill the Countess, and you do this over and over and over again. I've probably done thousands and thousands.
And that's to get the rune drops to farm your runes.
No, this is your dungeon.
No, I'm kidding, because that's what we do in Diablo 2.
Set items. Yes. So you kill her over and over and over again, but she has 2 phases, right? So if once you do enough damage to her, she can trigger her second phase, and she'll like go up into the air, and then you can't damage her for a while until you kill these minions, and it's a big time loss. But if you have 2 demon hunters and you have all the right buffs, like Crusader, Barbarian, and everyone's doing just insane damage, you can actually one phaser, but you have to do crazy amounts of damage, and it's very difficult to pull off. But you can one phaser, and you can save like 30 seconds of time, and then you pick up all the loot and you do the dungeon again. It saves a ton of time.
Yep. Okay. Another question I know I have, you're talking about running these dungeons over and over again. So you can spend money to like kind of empower these, right? To get like better loot or something like that. Like you put like a legendary crest in or something, or what's the effect of that?
No. Dungeons, you just there's no money you spend.
I thought you could like supercharge them, like empower the dungeon by spending money.
No.
So there's these things, aren't these things like these glyphs you put in, and then those drop the legendary gems when you're doing like rifts or something?
You're talking about an Elder Rift very specifically. It's a completely different thing.
Oh, okay.
So an Elder Rift is like a random dungeon. It's not one of like the dungeons you play in the world. It's just like a randomly generated thing, kind of like a rift in Diablo 3. And the enemies in there, they're a cakewalk. They're a raffle stomp. There's more of them, and you just go through and you just kind of raffle stomp everything. There's a lot of cool random affixes that happen in there, and some of them are very, very rare, like 1-2% rare of the time. So it's more of like a fast, fun, blasty kind of thing. Right, you just go, Chaos Dungeon from Lost Ark is a good way to characterize it.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, you just run in, it's really fun, and then at the end, if you plugged in the crests, you can get legendary gems from that. That's what that is.
Cool. I saw Alpha Bravo asked in the chat, can you get a feel of a class at the very start and say you don't like it, then you want to restart? How bad is that? Does that set you behind, or how devastating is that, etc.?
Good question.
Yeah, we addressed this a little earlier, but different way to ask the same question. So this is the greatest weakness of Diablo Immortal, is that the game has this opinion that it wants to lock you into a class, which the benefit of that is that you start thinking of yourself as, I'm a Necromancer player, right? I'm a Wizard player. I'm a Crusader player, whatever it is. The drawback to that is that there's no way for you to really figure out what your class is exactly going to play like until you just play it for many, many hours, or go watch a guide at youtube.com/echohack.
Yeah. So the drawback is that's kind of a big decision, and you're not going to get a true answer until you've already invested a significant amount of time in.
Yeah. And the other caveat to that is that class change as a system is coming. We don't know when it's coming, but we're expecting maybe the first, maybe the second patch after launch. So think like a month.
Where you could like maybe transfer your like XP gains and stuff.
Yeah, you transfer everything basically. Well, not quite everything. They kind of have some. They have a blog post about a couple of things that don't transfer, but most of all the important stuff that you've earned on your character's like power, so to speak, that all will transfer to your new class.
So we've talked a lot about like the technical details and stuff of it and what's good in the game, etc. But I want to ask like a really basic question, like an average just person who probably doesn't even like, let's say, care about meta or anything, right? How is the boss fights? Like when you go to the boss fights, are they fun and interactive and enjoyable? Are they difficult? Do you feel rewarded when you beat it? What can you explain a little bit of that for us?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this.
Yeah,
the bosses all have unique mechanics. You're looking at them now, and they all have these unique mechanics. They have these big telegraphed stuns that you'll have to dodge. If you've ever played any MMO, you'll be familiar with these kinds of mechanics.
Don't
they have
stand
multiple
the fire
phases. So like you're looking at Skeleton King. He has 2 phases. So once you do enough damage to him, he'll actually get up on his horse, and like a spectral steed will come out of the ground. That's cool. Then he'll start like charging across the battlefield, and you have to fight him kind of a whole different way, right? And every boss feels fairly unique, some more than others, but yeah, all the bosses are super, super awesome.
Cool.
How important is PvP in Diablo Immortal? Like, can you skip it at the start, let's say for a couple of days, or is it like a requirement if you want to be progressing?
Got it. So the game unlocks PvP around level 40 or so, is when you start tapping into some of the end game systems, and they give you a little taste. They'll be like, hey, here's a little introduction to what Heliquary bosses are going to feel like. Now you're not going to fight your real Heliquary boss until after you hit the maximum level and you have a killer group and blah 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 blah. But here's a taste, right? So they start giving you a taste of some of these end game systems, including PvP, around level 40. You don't have to participate in PvP to progress your character. You can just do PvE content, and you can be what's called an adventurer, and you can just play casually, right? Like you can log into the game, you can do sort of like your daily bounties, you can do some of your quests, you can go and kill monsters in the world, and you can just like make your character more powerful. Cool, I went and did some dungeons with friends, this sort of thing, right? And you don't have to participate in like the extreme end game cycle of strife, but certainly you're gonna get more rewarded for doing so. So I think most players who engage with this game will really want to do some of the PvP endgame content. And when I say PvP endgame content, there's 2 kinds of that. There's direct PvP, where you're fighting other players, right? Like Battlegrounds, the Rite of Exile, the Challenge of the Immortal. And then there's PvEVP, where you're fighting monsters, but you're doing so in a competitive way against another faction. So like you're doing the vault, right? So you go into the Immortals vault and you have to kill these enemies and try to steal their loot and get out. And if you alert the Immortals, then real players will come in and they'll raffle stomp on you because they're probably more powerful than you, and this sort of thing, right? So like there's more. It's kind of like your level of engagement with the game, right? If you're really casual, just do all the PvE content, do the Heliquary raids maybe. If you're getting more hardcore, you're gonna start venturing into the PvP systems, do the PvEVP stuff, and then if you're the ultimate hardcore, you're gonna be participating in the Rite of Exile. You're going to be trying to become the Immortal with the Challenge of the Immortal, which is like some of the top players on your server that you're fighting against, this sort of thing.
Okay, cool. And thank you, by the way, Capper, for the raid. Appreciate that. Just to all of you joining, chilling with one of the best Diablo Immortal players, Echo Hack, and just Cold Brew and Darth.
Well, hold on, wait, pause. What do you mean one of the?
Oh, the
Come
best?
on, Brad.
The best?
The best, Brad. Come on, you guys can give me 2 hours info, and you're gonna drop the one of on.
Hype it up. Oh, you know, I don't like to assume titles, but yeah, sure, I'll get on board with that.
Yeah, there's definitely people in the community. So here's one thing I'll say about being the Immortal longer than anybody else in the world is when you are the Immortal, you have a target painted on your back. And there's a lot of people who get jealous of that, or who don't want you to be the immortal, or they're gonna make up stories or whatever, right? There's gonna be server
Think
drama.
there's like a statue of the immortal in the server.
There's gonna be people in your DMs sending you death threats. There's gonna be all this
Really?
stuff, right?
Dude, this is so true, dude.
Yeah. So if you want to be ultra competitive in this game, you got to make sure that you're ready for that level of attention. It's a lot of attention, right? Like paparazzi don't like Britney Spears kind of thing, right? Like it's gonna get a little out of hand, and you got to be prepared for it, right? You gotta use your block button a lot, right? So even if you're the most caring, wholesome person on the planet, there are people who are. It's the internet, right? People are gonna do what the internet
They're gonna
does.
find a way to.
Yeah, that's just in general. Yep.
Yep. And so I've interviewed the Australian. So there's a different server. So every server has their own immortal. I didn't really clarify that. So during the betas, there is an Australian server as well. And so I've talked with all of the Australian immortals since throughout all the tests, and they've experienced the same thing as well, right? Like the first Australian immortal, she got so much hate, so much hate. Was told she was a terrible person. All this stuff, right? So you gotta be
What's
prepared for that.
what's the crux of that hate? Is it like, oh, you spent a bunch of money, like no skill, you just paid your way to the top? Like what's the crux of it? Like what causes that?
Part of it.
I think it's a bit of a complicated equation. It's one part. Well, that person doesn't deserve that. I should have got that, right? So it's that kind of like breed of jealousy.
All right.
It's
Your tactics weren't good enough. You used cheese tactics to get there. Oh, you only have it because you and your whole group of fucking friends all jerked around in a circle together, and that's the only reason you have it. Bro, what it is, it's just delegitimizing any actual achievements you make in your life.
Right.
It's like, let me go back to your high school GPA and be like, your mom did your homework for you, bro, so everything in your life is fake, too. It's just... It's the same garbage. You'll get it in every game. I mean, our whole guild got it in Marvel because we literally rode the servers so hard, people couldn't even get into the PvP zone. They couldn't even get into it. We got hated on.
Amazing. Yeah, you'll definitely build up some haters by winning, right? But I also think that kind of feeds into this idea, which we also haven't talked about. There's so much to talk about in this game, guys.
Seems like it, bro. I mean, we're 2 hours in here. We're hitting 2 hours in like 1 minute.
Which I might have to use the bathroom here soon.
I know. It's like, well, I didn't realize I was going to be needing, a lunch break and an assistant in order to finish this podcast.
It was just a casual thing. We can end it whenever you want to go.
Like, loving it, dude.
Do another one. Yeah.
I'm here for whatever.
So, to become the immortal, you have to overthrow the current immortals. And you have to do this whole PvEVP thing that we've been talking about. You have to go through a whole bunch of stuff, which we can talk about the technical details about that after I've used the bathroom. But essentially, what's going to happen is, and it's inevitable, right? So there's a stacking buff that the shadows get, and it becomes impossible to hold immortals after a certain point. Like, I think maybe on the most inactive server, with the strongest immortals ever, they might be able to hold it for like 7 weeks at the max, right? It's that, and that would be really extreme.
Yeah, that's pretty long, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be very, 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 very long. During beta, we held it for 4 weeks, and that I felt like we almost won that 4th week one, and we 100% would have lost 5th week no matter what. No chance. It just, I wouldn't have even fought. I wouldn't have even bothered.
And it's fair to say you guys were like sweaty as can get during the beta, right?
Super sweaty, like Excel spreadsheets, like spreadsheets and Space Eve online levels of play.
Eric Hartman playing World of Warcraft.
You got it. Yeah.
Got it. I'll let the cat out. 1 moment.
Yes, of course. So, if you want to be the immortal, you can become the immortal. It's just a matter of time, depending on if you have the top dark house, dark clan, and overthrowing the immortals, right? Now, where this gets really interesting is, so there's 10 top dark clans that are all trying to overthrow the Immortals separately. So after you overthrow the Immortals, you win the Right of Exile, you kill the Immortal in the Challenge of the Immortal. Immediately after the Challenge of the Immortal, literally seconds later, everyone who was in the Challenge of the Immortal fight, which is 30 people, the top 3 people from the top 10 Dark Houses, all get revived. And then there's a 10 team 3v3 v3 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 battle royale that happens. And the last team standing becomes the new Immortal clan. That's called the Challenge of the Immortal. And it's this epic, this whole affair, right? So you, all on the same night, you're gonna like overthrow the Immortals, and then you're gonna have to vie for your position to become the new Immortals. And then if you become the new Immortals, then all these crazy things happen. Like Westmarch totally changes, and like there's fireworks and banners
like
everywhere and all sorts of things.
It's a whole thing when the Immortals change.
Yes,
right?
it's called the cycle turns. So this whole thing is called the cycle of strife. And then you become the new Immortals, and then now you have to you have to rule the server. So because there's this switching of the Immortals, this changing of the guard every 4 to 6 weeks, 2 to 6 weeks, something like that. There's a wall in Westmarch, which is the main hub for the game, and you can go to the wall, and it's called the Wall of Honor, and you can look at the entire history of who was the Immortals for the entire history of the server, dating all the way back to the very beginning of the server. So when you become the Immortals, you're immortal forever in a way, because you're going to be on this wall, and at the end of your reign, it's going to say all of the stats of your reign, like how much dominance were you able to earn, how long were you able to hold the reign, and all this sort of thing. And so you'll be able to like compare and be like, oh well, this reign was more successful than that reign, and so on and so forth.
Okay, well that's cool, because at least it's it's etched.
Absolutely.
Because like you said, you're gonna lose it. You can't hold it forever.
You're absolutely going to lose it. Let me run to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Sure, man.
Cold Brew's already eating dinner over there.
Yeah, Cobra's
Oh, yeah.
losing, man. I mean, he's got about 10 words in this 3-hour podcast.
What's to say? I mean, I just know the game from watching videos, so it's like I
Me
want to
too.
hear all about it. That's pretty much it.
It's called a podcast, not an interview. What up, Cobra?
Well-
How are you? How was your day, Cobra? Tell me about your day.
It's alright. Just been home today. I was out last night. Lots of food, lots of drinks. So yeah. Having sushi.
Is your nose recovering?
A little better. A little worse sometimes. Still congested. What about you?
My left nose, it feels like it gets like boogers in it way easier than it used to. You feel that way?
Well, the one that had the problem is still pretty congested all the time. I just can't really breathe from it, so I don't know if I should go to
Kind
the
of what I'm
doctor
talking
again.
about, to be honest. I don't know, man. Like, is it? I feel like maybe it is better. Maybe I'm just tripping. My memory is so bad that even though I'm sitting there not being able to breathe for like 10 years, the second I can actually breathe, I instantly forget what it was like to not be able to breathe.
Yeah, it was never like this for me, for sure. Because it's like sometimes I can't even talk. Like I have to breathe in and then continue talking. So it's pretty different from what it was before. But I don't know what's the timeline here. When it's gonna get better?
My dude literally told me 4 months is like the end of it. But I think I'm like,
4
aren't we
months.
almost there? Or has it been? How long has it been?
2 months.
2 months? So I got what, 2 more months? And if my nose isn't, factory fresh with the big bore kit I put in it, then it's time to go back to the doc and be like, yo, you drilled out the wrong nose or something, right?
Yeah. Something like that.
Although technically it was both of them, I guess. We're sitting here talking about our cocaine habits. Echo Hack, welcome back.
Oh,
No,
coffee,
actually,
you mean?
yeah, no, actually, me and Cobra just had the same surgery. We had our nose ruined. Like mine was from fighting back in the day, and I got my nose broke.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we got the tibia, whatever it is, where they like go in and drill your nose out and fix the serpentine breaks, and he's recovering from that, and I had mine like 2 weeks before his or something like that.
Whoa, crazy.
Yeah,
PBH
so I was in a
definitely-
fight as well with Darth,
It's true. We broke.
but I
each
was
other's
winning
noses.
most of the time. That's why he had to have the surgery before me. I had to have it a little later.
Nice.
That was-
I like that one, Cobra. That's pretty good. All right. All right. I'll give you that one. All right.
Trying to predetermine who's going to become the immortal.
Exactly.
Me.
Darth,
it's-
obviously.
I'm just
Actual
telling you right
fight.
now. So we're gonna put some. Are we gonna put a $5 bet on it? I already lost to Heads Up Poker the Car Mobile last night. DoorDash order. I owe him Wendy's. So we got to put at least a Wendy's meal worth of fun on if we're making it to the Immortal season 1 or not, boys. There's got to be.
Yeah,
some
but
shit
we're not
pocket
gonna
Wait,
be
wait,
on the
wait.
same server.
Do you want to know how to become immortal season 1?
Uh-oh.
Of
I
course. Who doesn't want to know how to become Immortal?
Don't play
season?
on
That
Echo's
question?
Yeah,
server.
I'll be playing on Europe, so yeah.
Oh, that's
So-
true. There's like 3 people in Europe. Cobru's gonna be Immortal by default.
There you go.
Yeah, the way this is going to work is, first of all, you don't want to play on my server, because what's going to happen is I'm going to tell everybody where we're playing, and all the Maxwell content creators are going to go there, and then every other content creator is going to go there, because that's where the content's going to be.
Right.
And it's going to be the busiest server on the planet.
And that
And,
server is.
Well, they don't know yet.
There's no server names yet, but when we know, like, the world will know, and everybody will go there.
Do we know if there's like a million US West, US East, US
Do-
whatever servers, or is there like a
Supposedly,
one?
number?
yes. Yeah.
Do you know the numbers of like the servers? Like, oh, it's gonna be
No.
like 10,000 per
No.
server.
Hundreds and hundreds. I don't know. We'll find out. So my guess is it's going to be like Lost Ark launch, right? Is they'll have a certain number of servers that they launch with. They're gonna base it based on like pre-registers and other intel and data that they have, and they'll spin them up, and then those servers are gonna fill up instantly because this game is gonna be the most popular RPG ever made. And then they're gonna have to do things like, hey, we're freezing character creation on all these servers. You have to go to these new servers, and we're spinning up more servers as fast as we can, guys. It's crazy. Like it's gonna be like Lost Ark launch. I think it's gonna be absolutely mad. It's a madhouse where they're just making new
Fair.
servers all the time. I think it's gonna be something like that.
Wait, what day is June 2nd? Is it weekend? No,
It's a
Thursday. So
Well,
going
either-
into the weekend. So
Yeah.
by the second day
Of course they're gonna do it on a Thursday. Yep. And go flying into
Yeah,
the
but by the
5-day blaster
third and
weekend.
fourth. By the third
How
and
are we gonna
fourth,
get our
it's gonna
names
be much-
reserved? Is what I'm thinking. Like, there's gonna be a million fucking people, and
Well,
A lot of
it'll
people
probably be
have asked that
different for each
question. I
server.
have no idea.
like, is this battle tag based? Because I know it's BattleNet, so it's like, do I get to use
Blizzard
my
usually
battle
does it
tag?
like that.
I would like if I could use my battle tag, but
Yeah, so it is BattleNet, but your character name is still a thing, right? In-game.
right.
So, like, if you put someone on your friends list, it's your BattleNet friends list.
Okay.
So your character name doesn't matter that much. So it's not like a separate account or anything like that.
But what goes on to the Hall of Diablo Immortal when you actually, like, you get your reward and they write your name down? They're not gonna write down your battle pass, so it's gonna matter, right? Or your
True,
battle
yeah.
name.
The other thing I didn't mention about that is that when you become the immortal can name the reign, right? So like you can be like the
Oh no.
the reign of
It's gonna be some furry
glory
shit
and
in about 5
hatred, or
minutes.
like you can name it whatever you want. So of course, we named ours
Reign of the whales?
Pizza.
Well, Pod Ran the Pizza is what you named yours?
No, we named it Pizza. Pizza. So
Dude, this
then
is gonna be
when
some
you go
degenerate names really quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna
Oh,
get
man.
bad fast.
So when you go to
People are
the
gonna get
wall of
mad.
honor, you click back, it will tell you the name of the reign in big text above. So
no.
it'll be like Pizza or or whales die, or like
Whatever.
like,
Yeah.
I like butts, or like whatever it is,
It's gonna be great.
and it's gonna be great. Yeah.
Man, dude, I'm actually kind of hyped because something that these games have to have, like, I mean, I know it's an ARPG, so it literally has to have it, but like having social dynamic is something that makes these type of games go from, like, even if it's a good game, let's say the game's 15 out of 10 gameplay, like everything, it doesn't fucking matter if it's single player. People like this type of stuff, people probably ain't gonna play it that long, but since there's other people, being able to play with other people, like, that's the part that's great. So is the chat system in the game good? Is where I'm going with this. Is the guild chat system, the messaging system, all that, how is that
Yes.
in game?
Okay, yeah, there's sort of two things here. One thing you didn't mention, so let's address chat first. So there is a million chat channels. There's like a world chat, there's guild clan chat, there's chat for the shadows, chat for the immortals, chat for the zone that you're in, private chats like DMs, like all this kind of thing. And chat can work either with like thumbs or a Bluetooth keyboard, or I imagine on PC with a regular keyboard, right? So yeah, you can chat in game. There's even a voice to chat feature. So you like hit a button, and then you like talk out loud, and it will record the what you're doing and send it.
Wait, the audio file send it, or it will
Audio
translate it as text, voice to text? What's
both actually. It can do both.
Oh, that's so cool. You actually get to hear the other people. That's so cool.
You can actually hear the other person's voice, but it's they do some filtering. So if you say naughty words, it just won't post it, right? So
they got that TikTok censorship in there. Got it.
They got the TikTok censorship on that. Yeah, they do.
Okay,
it's
getting
pretty
more and more hype.
It's pretty interesting. Now I would say if you're going try hard spreadsheets in Diablo kind of level, you want to have Discord. Like the best clans are already setting up their Discord now, or already have, and they're like going full blast, like we are in recruitment. Like they're already there. The game's already started, guys. Like,
yeah, that's how it always works with any big game.
That's where you really want to organize, because the chat features of Discord.
But what if you have a clan of like 30 people? You have to have like different war bands because it's only 8. Is this gonna be? I'm old enough to remember the disaster of Facebook making you pick your top 8 friends, or MySpace making you pick your top 8 friends. So people are gonna have to. You have a let's say you, for example, you have a Discord server, 24 people want to play together, and you got to be like, I want you 7 with me, and sorry.
Yep.
Oh, is that a way?
This is the biggest piece of feedback that we've given about these warbands already, and I think a lot of people don't like the current idea of warbands because of what you just talked about there, Cho. Is that to some extent, warbands are either going to be really good, and you have to do them, and they're exclusionary, right? Like here's my 8 people that I play with. I'm probably not going to group too much with other people if those 8 people are online. Or they're completely worthless, and then you just ignore them entirely. Nobody uses the feature. It's kind of, I would say that's the community's sentiment right now around like what we think warbands is going to be. Again, this is all highly speculative. We haven't had any of these warband features in the beta, so we don't know how it's actually going to play out. But it's starting to look that way, where some people are going to feel excluded, some people are going to be feeling left out.
Yeah, I haven't seen it live in game, but it seems like a bad idea just on the surface.
Now, I can tell you kind of how we're handling it. So how we're handling it is we literally just ask people, like, do you want to make your own warbands? Do you want us to make warbands for you? And the large majority of people seem to want us to just slot people into warbands and to just set them up for them, which is great because that makes it easy, right? So what we're trying to do is set up a warband leader, which is just a made-up role. It's not in game or anything, but just a made-up role. And then the warband leader will either pick their own people or we'll assign people to them. We're trying to put friends together. We're trying to put like-minded communities together. So like, for example, we have a lot of French players from the beta from Canada that played with us that are going to play again. So there's going to be a couple of French warbands, I think, and this sort of thing, right? So we're trying to do our best.
By spending tier, you're gonna spend $50 a month or $500.
That's how I divide them up. Minnow,
it might
dolphin,
become like
kraken,
spending
whale.
tier. Yeah, you might have some spending tier war bands, or it's like you must spend this amount of money to enter. Although I think that's a flawed approach because those people don't know about like Paragon snapshotting and world first techniques and other things that we haven't talked about
Which
yet.
you're going to tell all of us.
Yeah, I am.
So all of us are world first.
I will tell you everything I know. I am currently under no embargoes. I will tell you everything.
There it is, baby. They spill every bit of every beans that you can ever
even
have.
Even if we get told what to do, it's totally different than actually practicing and doing that.
Yeah,
which you did. So yeah,
that's true. Yeah. That there is an advantage to having practiced it. But also a lot of it is the research. Like I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours researching where every single layer location is, and then I just made a map for you guys, and you can just go use the map. It's already made. It's on the internet, right?
It's on the website, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's on immortal.maxwell.gg, right? If you want to, you're gonna need to go to different dungeons to find different set items, and in order to like fill out your set once you hit max level. You don't have to figure out where those are. We have a set item guide that will tell you every single one, where every dungeon that they are, where you unlock them, and how to get all of them, right? So you don't have to go discover any of that information. So at least that part of the experience is already done for you.
I'm also worried about because I ran the best hardcore clan in Diablo 3, and it wasn't bad because you have 120 people and everybody can play with each other. So one person didn't stick out like a sore thumb. I'm worried if you'll get 6 or 7 people being like, hey, so-and-so needs to be kicked from our war band. They haven't logged in for a couple days. They're not pulling their weight. It's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty vicious.
In the very sweaty clans, I'll tell you how it actually works in practice, right? So you're a clan leader. You have 100 people in your clan. You're going to go and you're going to look at the activity and how many, marks or how many activity points as an immortal that people have done in a particular day. And you're going to go down the list and you're going to look at the very bottom. And at the very bottom is going to be someone who hasn't logged in a day. And the question you're going to have to ask yourself is that person going to log in tomorrow? Or is there a player that I know and that I trust that can fill that slot? And if you have a player that can fill that slot, you're going to fill that slot. So I would say at first, the slot, the very, very beginning game, first 5-10 days, there's going to be a lot of turnover. There's going to be a lot of players who are they say they're going to blast the game 8 hours a day for 10 days straight. They play it for 1 day and then they uninstall it, or that sort of. I mean, there's going to be a couple people who do that, right? There's going to be people who drop off pretty rapidly, and you're going to replace them very rapidly. But after the first couple weeks, it's going to be okay. Well, somebody didn't play today, but they played tomorrow, and you don't want to get rid of that person, right? Because you need an army. You need an absolute army. As the Immortals, you need 300 people, right? It's
your clan.
That's crazy.
So Immortals, the way it works now, again, this isn't the way it worked during beta, but the way it works now is Immortals is the Immortal clan, the people who won the Challenge of the Immortal, and then they invite 2 other clans to become Immortals. So if the clan size is 100, then it'll be 300 people. If the clan size is 150, then it'll be 450 people.
So question, can I, because there's a potential problem with this that you might be acutely aware of, is if that's the situation where they get invite other clans, what's the reality of the top clans farming it for black market cash off the side and then just selling the Immortals to their friends or whoever pays the highest or whatever? Is that a realistic thing?
Selling the how
So
would
like you know
sell
how
the
you can sell like
Immortals?
mythic dungeon runs in WoW, like WoW's pay to win now because people would just go in and you just spend money and then people run you through everything. Is there a world in which you live in which now what's going to happen is there will be, and I know you said there's counter mechanics for like 7 weeks is, you know, the highest you could even possibly imagine. So I know it's not something like that, but is there a world in which it's like, okay, all the best players go into one thing, they snowball it so hard, and now what they're doing is selling Immortal spots for $5,000 each, much like people would sell like Challenger spots in Challenger teams in League of Legends back in the day. That was a huge problem, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So first of all, you would have to be invited to their clan because everything is clan based. So
Okay.
there's only a limited number of clan spots. So you would have to be, first of all, the clan would have to be an Immortal clan, and then you would have to be invited to their clan in order to get one of these spots, right? So
Okay.
let's
So it's unrealistic.
let's say you set up 2 dummy clans and you sell spots. Now, I don't know why you would do that, because the goal of being the Immortal is to hold on to the reign as long as possible. So you want to have as many of the best players as possible.
Are the
but
other people who are invited though? Sorry to cut you off, but I need critical to my point here is are those people that get invited? Do they go into the Hall of Fame as well? Do they get, or do they only get the limited buff and stuff? I mean, how does that work? Because
No, not really. Okay, so when you become Immortals, there's a little tiny button in the bottom right side of the screen called Founding Members. And if you were in the clan that won, it will list all the members of the clan that won. But if you get invited to the Immortals, you're not on the wall at all. There's a caveat to that, is in that the person who's the Immortal can change the top 4 lieutenants who are on the wall anytime they want.
with anyone,
With anybody, right?
clan
they
or
can
not?
Oh no! They have to be an Immortal, right? But
Okay. Just sorry, just gotta clarify because I know there's gonna be other
Yep.
people listening to this that don't know at all, and that's
any 4 Immortals, you can swap the lieutenants as you want. There are reasons not to do that. That there are game mechanics where you don't want to do that. You want to pick 4 lieutenants and stick with them for a lot of good reasons. But you can swap them, right? Like let's say someone drops out of the game and you're like, I actually need this slot filled. You can refill the slot, basically. And the other thing you can do is you can abdicate being the Immortal. So if you are the Immortal, you can give up being the Immortal and give it to somebody else. There's a lot of rules around this. There's certain things you can and can't do when you to abdicate. But you can make somebody else the Immortal. But if you do that, then at the end of the reign, the person that's on the wall is not you. It's the person you abdicated to who ended the reign as the Immortal.
okay.
So you're giving up any sort of like future top spot that you worked so hard for, right? So I doubt anybody would ever abdicate, but the option is there.
So okay, so what? You know, here let me give a metaphor that you're probably gonna understand fairly well. Then it sounds to me like it's the Illidan glaive problem, like blade glaive problem, right? Which is basically that it's either A, going to cause lots of drama in the guild because you got to assign it, like the lieutenant spots, right? Let's say there's the 4 lieutenant spots, only 4 people are going to get it. Yeah, you can say it's merit based. Other people in the guild might argue over who gets those lieutenant spots, etc. I'm speculating, of course. I'm just trying to think ahead here, right? Whereas the other option is if it's 100 person in a clan, right? So then if it's 100 person in a clan, you have 99 pro players, 1 shitbag that just started the game. You guys hit Immortal literally every time because you can backpack 1 player. I'm assuming you can backpack 1 player in a clan. Then all you have to do is abdicate that 1 player who literally just started the game and hit max level or whatever the guy Immortal. Now you abdicate him to the top, and with garbage gear and $5 spent, he's now on the wall as the Immortal because he spent $3,000 to get into the clan because they know they're going Immortal because they do it all the time because they're pros and can do that. And then he gets abdicated to the top because he PayPal'd him.
Sure. You could do that. Yeah, that is something that you could do.
Well, see, and we're coming from a perspective of like the boosting in the top of the arena in Raid Shadow Legends. Yep.
Because
So
it's a problem.
yeah.
It's a
Yep.
problem that will ruin games. Which
People
is why I
will literally pay $5,000 just to be able to say they were rank 1, and they'll do whatever
Yeah.
it takes if that mechanic exists.
And this kind of goes to Yeah, this kind of goes to it's starting to remind me of EVE Online sometimes.
Oh,
where-
dude, yes.
Yeah, where like somebody is like, oh, so and so has had access to the ship hangar of this big corporation, and somebody PayPal'd them $5,000. They stole everything, and then they dissolved the alliance. And these are very rare and big events that, like, I remember, I think it was it Bob that got dissolved? I forget. That happened back in the day. But anyway, I think if that happened, the person that did that would never ever be part of any group ever again. They have to quit the game, basically.
Okay, it's a reputation thing.
And the only way you become the immortal is if you're head of a clan, anyway, right? So all of the work that you've done, you built your clan, you built your Discord, you've built your reputation, you built your character, you grinded hours and hours and hours. You probably spent real money on the game. All of that, and then you sell that to somebody else for a one-time buyout. It could happen, like just like it did does in like EVE and stuff like back in the day, but very unlikely, highly unlikely to happen.
Okay, that's good info. Appreciate the breakdown on that.
Did we really see that happen in Raid? Like Cold Brew, the people that paid thousands of dollars to get boosted, did they get kind of like shunned and lose everything?
Well, the top players who are actively, competing knew who bought their way to the top. But when the company actually, sorted out the problem, well, those people were gone and couldn't get the top position anymore. So they're pretty much just there with the one trophy that they had.
I think Blizzard will probably clean it up if that's the problem too. Like Blizzard does not like boosting and all this stuff, right? And it's a bannable offense in other games. So I would imagine Diablo Immortal, they're literally writing it in the game, like they're putting it on the wall itself. I'm assuming there's going to be, at a minimum, a small level of knowledge. I mean, if everyone, and plus there's a million servers. So I mean, if there's gonna be a million different servers, then I don't know how much people are going to want to pay to be on the wall if it's only on for your server anyway. I'm assuming the walls are for individual servers, and it's not like the wall goes to every single server and you see every immortal who ever existed on all servers. I'm assuming that's not the way it works, which would devalue that even wall aspect anyway, because people probably wouldn't be willing to pay for it. So
yes,
I just wanted to see if it was technically possible.
There's many immortals, there's many servers, there's many walls.
Yeah. Do you think that there's going to be a point where people say, oh, this server is just too much for me, I'm going to jump server to another one because I just cannot compete here and ever get immortal?
Yeah, I mean, the players who want to be immortal, if they're on a very, very busy server and they just can't get it for whatever reason, they might jump servers maybe. But usually in MMOs, if you jump servers, you're like leaving your guild behind. This is like server jumping kills guilds.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like whole guilds move servers, like a coordinated jump, and try to compete somewhere else.
Usually that kills the guild, like 9 times out of 10. Yeah.
Because everyone's got friends in that server, and half the people aren't going to do it, and yeah.
It's really a last, like, if you're, in my opinion, if you're losing, like, just get better and win. Like, don't switch servers.
Just get better. Get good.
Just get better.
Get good.
if you can, like, if they're like too wailed out or whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but like he was explaining, I mean, the wailing's only going to get you so far.
Purchases don't transfer over, right? So it's like you buy the battle pass. Is it just for the one character you made on that server?
So battle pass that's something we haven't talked about at all. So battle pass, you buy that. It's at least in the beta, it was about $5 a month, and then there was like a skip tier that was like $15 a month. So I'm still not certain which one I'm gonna buy, because I think the $15 one has the cosmetics attached to it, so I might be getting that one. But the battle pass is the best value for the money in the game, and it's actually really good.
Yeah.
And it has a whole bunch of rewards on it that are only claimable by one character. So once you buy the battle pass and you kind of progress through the whole thing, then only one character benefits from a lot of the rewards, but your other characters can still, like if you paid for it, can still progress the battle pass over again. They're not going to get a lot of the like really
Yeah,
good
so
stuff.
when Darth starts as a Necro and then hates himself and switches over to a wizard 2 weeks into the battle pass, he's lost kind of that first half of the battle pass.
Yes, maybe. I would probably just stick with Necro and then wait for class change to come around and then
Just
And
suffer
then-
through the next
Yeah.
2 months.
Good to know.
I know, because now it's like I'm still struggling. Like the problem is like Necro v Wizard. I can't pick, bro. Like look at him. Look at him.
just-
They put
You'll
me
have
in the
to,
game.
Darth, you'll have to do a
Okay.
poll and let your
Coin
viewers
toss,
pick.
No, just do a coin toss right now.
Fine.
Just right now,
Oh
and that's it.
no.
Wait.
Just-
DM. You gotta wait a day or two for me to get my Necro video out.
Yeah, get all the
Which is gonna be in the
information.
pinned comment down below in the description. Subscribe.
I have the bell on, so I'll be notified of
There
that
you go.
one.
The bell.
Yeah. I think it'll help you decide. I'm getting the hint from you that you're gonna like the Necro. That's
That's what I'm thinking. Plus, like,
where I'd push you.
I mean, I thought this is something I've been meaning to ask for like the entire 2.5 hours, but my brain runs on a 10-second loop and I keep forgetting things. Is that I thought someone told me, and I even said in a video with confidence, like a fucking monkey, that it's gender bending. Like you can pick male or female, right?
I would say I would characterize it as like customization, right? So when you make your character, basically you can customize your character at the beginning, right?
Like
So,
Let me put it another way. You can have boobs or not have boobs.
correct. Yes.
Thank you. So
And
I can.
Why
additionally
is that
to that,
so important, though?
and
Because
additionally to
I'm
that,
a man.
there's-
I want to play as a man. It's that simple. I'm one of those weirdos. Okay.
there's many different like face options and that sort of thing. So in other words, this isn't Diablo 3 where you pick the gender and then that's it. That's the only option.
Okay.
Like you pick the
Right.
gender and then you have a whole
Oh, you got like
array
different
of
sliding bars and
faces.
stuff you can play with.
It's not like Skyrim level or like Cyberpunk level, that sort of thing. It's more just like pick these portrait things and then you're on your way.
Like
kind of thing.
presets. and
Yeah,
that's
they're
it.
just presets.
Oh, okay,
At
cool.
least that's what we saw.
Okay.
Now, where you
Alright.
really will be able to customize your characters with the cosmetics, and what we've seen so far is that it looks like there's 3 different cosmetic slots. So it looks like there's one for your weapon, one for your armor, and one for your portal. So you're going to port all over your town portal, just like in any other Diablo game. So they've put a lot of work into the animations for the town portal for this game. So it's not like Diablo 2 where a town portal is a town portal. In this game, the Barbarian, he like grabs his axes and he like opens the town portal, like a rift in space, like with his axes, and it like makes a tear
They
in
want to
space
sell
time.
those packs.
And then
Oh, cosmetics. Yeah, it's gonna be
they want
cosmetics.
to sell that shit.
And the Crusader, she like throws her sword into the dirt and like her shield like comes up and the portal appears there and then goes.
Yeah,
in
that's
it.
super
Like,
cool.
There's all these special animations, and then I think from what we've seen, if I remember correctly, you can get custom ones too that you can buy cosmetically. So all the custom portal animations.
So what I'm hearing, okay, good. That because here I absolutely know there's a subsection of people out there. I know it's only like 5% of people that care, but like they will not. If they're a girl, they will not play it if it's a guy. If they're a guy, they will not play it if it's a girl. It's just that simple. They won't. Yeah. I don't go that far. A wizard for me, I'd still play even if it's a girl. I just prefer to be able to make them look like me. Because when I'm playing the game, I'm one of the people who likes to pretend my hero's me, and I'm in an MMO, and I'm a fantasy guy running around decapitating zombies, you know. And then if I look down and I got a big pair of knockers, it looks like to me like that's probably not me. So it just throws me off.
So it's not only that, but even like legendary items and other things that you pick up are gendered, right? So like if you get what am I trying to think of? My brain is going blank. You get a particular legendary item for Necromancer, right? And it's a chest, right? So the art of the chest, if you're female, it'll have like the boob armor, and it'll be like apportioned for like a more feminine body and that sort of thing. And then if it's male armor, it'll be more broad-shouldered and there's no boobs on it, and
They do the World of Warcraft thing then.
Yeah. But even like the icons and everything are gendered as well.
And they're locked out from each other entirely. Like, I mean, I guess that doesn't make sense because I was going to say in some of the other.
Like if
ones,
you have a female character, the items will be female. If you have a male character, the items will look.
These are the important things we needed to get ironed out. These are.
Yeah, that's why we needed to get the top guy here.
I'm
Explain this
sorry.
to
Am
us.
I the only one who actually cares about what my character looks like? I feel like it's not that weird of a question.
No,
Like,
I'm
the
just
character's gonna have,
laughing. It's not a weird question.
You know, equipment on like the first 5 minutes, so you're not gonna even know. Okay. Like,
Fair enough.
I always went.
know.
I guess I never tried to relate it to me. I just went by what was cooler. I preferred playing like the female demon hunter, but I would do like the male barbarian. It just kind of depends on the class. Didn't really matter to me.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
yeah, I like the female crusader,
Yep.
but the male witch doctor, stuff like that. Yeah.
See, look at it. I'm drawn to the Necromancer only because he has red hair and I feel represented and heard.
For the record, I think the male Necromancer is the better of the two Necromancers.
Yeah.
And I think I play female Crusader, so I like that model better than the male.
Yeah, it just comes down to what model fits
It's not like the models
class.
are bad. The models are good. They look great.
Can you do transmogging of your gear like you could in Diablo 3?
No. So like in terms of like updating an item for different appearance for that particular item, no. I think instead what you have is you have a little cosmetic tab on your character sheet, and then you have these 3 slots that you can fill in with different cosmetics. The other thing you have is you have items that gain resonance over time based on like a bunch of stuff, and your regular items, even without buying cosmetics, your regular items will progress their appearance as well.
Okay, cool. And then the re-rolling of stats from the Mystic. Is that in there? Like you find a GG item, there's just that one stat that's
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. There is a system where, okay, so when you upgrade your items, they at upgrade levels 6, 11, and 16, they get what's called a bonus attribute. And that bonus attribute is an attribute that each slot, all 6 primary slots you have on your character, get like an extra bonus on. And there's all these different bonus families that can roll different slots. So you can re-roll those. They have it's a Diablo game, of course. They roll in a range, right? And you can re-roll those with a reforged stone. And you can either earn reforged stones from a bunch of different places in the game, or you can buy like family-specific reforged stones from the shop.
okay.
So you can you can't re-roll gear per se, but you can re-roll these bonus attributes.
Yep. Gotcha.
You can sort of well out for gear though, right? If you buy stuff, sell it to the market, and then buy. From my understanding, you can buy gear. I'm trying to figure out how exactly
No.
There's no way to buy gear at all.
0.
Exactly what I want to hear.
Okay, so I don't know how familiar he is.
And when
with
I say
you.
0, I mean like you can't even do like crazy things like trade this for that and this, and then with the second character do this, and then with the third character do this, and then change it for this thing, and then go on the black market.
You actually have to play the game, is what you're telling me?
0. Nothing. Nothing.
It's
You actually,
outrageous for a mobile game.
This
Yeah.
is the way
You
Darth
actually
plays
haven't played
games.
the game.
He launches it on launch day. He drops like $800, plays it for an hour and a half, decides it's
you
trash.
say that like we don't all spend $10,000 on Raid Shadow Legends. Jesus
I'm
Christ,
talking about
Brad.
what was that
Every time
Magic
with this
Legends
comment.
that you spent
It's
like
Darth Micro, I
$600
get it.
on
It's
in
the
30 minutes?
pod. We like to spend money.
It's called mobile games. We well out.
So we've confirmed here, Brad, who has already been shit talking, is going to be the #1 player.
That's
He's
right.
not spending money in the game. He's not spending money in the game. We confirmed
He will
right
have
now.
a free-to-play tab.
He's free to play, and he's going to show us how the win is free to play.
That's right.
Wow.
That's the
Not even
challenge.
Battle Pass. That's
Nothing.
That's too
Wow.
expensive. That's like $5 a month.
Yeah.
Too much.
Dude, I spent like $11,000 on Raid. You guys act like I'm never spending here.
Let's call
I'm
it
just
clap
saying,
back,
those
son. You
$5.
clap me, you get bit back.
I think, by the way, I think free to play is a totally valid way of playing. And in this game, like, doing free to play, like, you can be one of the most valuable players in the server. I think eventually there's going to be a free to play Immortal, maybe not at launch, but I think you can do it and you can be very, very valuable. And I think, in fact, the game is designed such that those free to play blasters that are playing the game a lot, that you're going to have to ally with them. And in fact, what might happen is that the person who becomes Immortal might be a free to play blaster who's just really good at organizing people, and they just have support from a certain number of whales.
Because you can only be immortal, like you said, if you own the clan. So if you just own the clan and then get all the, instead of, and you already said you can backpack one person. So instead of buying your way in, why not just be the person who makes the guild and get 99 good players, you know? Take one down, pass them around, and then have them 99 immortals on the wall.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. But you have to blast, right? You have to have the stats on your character. You're going to get destroyed in the Challenge of the Immortal.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, I used to play World of Warcraft where you had to pay that monthly fee. So paying something like $5 a month to get something more in a game, it doesn't seem too much for me. But after that amount, it can be like snowball effect in terms of how much you spend. So, like,
yeah, the way I characterize this is that buying the battle pass takes the floor of your character power like up to a whole bunch. It's a pretty rapid jump. It takes your character floor up a bunch. Like,
yeah,
there's a ton of power if you're willing to spend unlimited amounts of money. But the floor of where you are relative to those people, you're just always going to be catching up to those people. Because the way this game is engineered is that these systems are completely independent of each other, right? So the gear system is completely independent of legendary gems, right? So as you get more and more resources to get more and more legendary gems, and as you get more lucky and you get more runes and you get more fading ember and all this kind of stuff that lets you get more legendary gems, you're catching up to anybody who just spent, launched the game and spent $100,000. You're catching up to them on that system, and then you're already ahead of them on gear because you're blasting the game, 16 hours a day. So now it's slowly becoming like this, and you might actually be passing them in power depending on playtime and some of the other things like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting how they've balanced the like pay to win mechanics and the money spending mechanics in this game.
By the way, it's Mother's Day.
That's right.
Just heads up for anyone who right now is needing to call their mom.
Do you think that the game was at a good state when they announced it at BlizzCon, and then when they had that bad reaction from the crowd, they went back to the drawing board and then said, "Oh, we have to make it 10 times better than what it is right now"?
So I was there.
Okay.
At BlizzCon in the audience, and I'm friends with the mods at Reddit Diablo, the Diablo subreddit. So I was sitting next to the Diablo mods during the announcement. And what's important to characterize about this, which I've explained this a million times, is everybody going to BlizzCon that year was expecting Diablo 4. That's what they had heard rumors of. There was a big hype train that Blizzard played themselves. They played themselves into this, right? Like the
Oh,
Did
yeah.
they give
made it-
out gifts that
Yeah.
said like 4 on it or something?
They
Like
had
said-
they had gift bags with things like a 4-sided dice, D4. Like I mean they were supposed to announce Diablo 4. Something changed about 2 weeks before BlizzCon because Blizzard was on the main forums being like it's gonna be hype, and then like 2 weeks before BlizzCon they went on the forums and they were like, hey everybody, like temper your expectations, don't get too crazy. And I was like, uh-oh, what happened?
Right. Yeah. Something happened. We don't know about that specifically, but what we do know is that everybody was expecting Diablo 4. So at the end of the main ceremony, they showed Immortal. Everyone went, I don't want this, right? I'm a PC gamer, right? I don't even want to give this a chance. So what the physical situation at BlizzCon is they had sort of like a main stage area, and the main stage area also had the Diablo Immortal demo area inside of it. And what's really important to note is that if there was a talk going on in the main stage area, which there is for all of BlizzCon, then you're not allowed to enter the main stage area. So people weren't allowed to go and play the demo of Diablo Immortal for basically the entire convention. And so even if you wanted to go play it and try it out, it was difficult to even get in there, right? So the sort of like the chat of like what Immortal is happened immediately after the main announcement. And so 0 people had played the game at that point. Nobody had played the game. And I'm sitting in the audience with the Reddit Diablo moderators, and we're all like, hey, I want to play the game. I want to find out about this. I'm kind of excited. We haven't gotten a new Diablo game. Like, we know that the second expansion for Diablo 3 was canceled, for example. We haven't gotten a new Diablo game in a long time. Even though this isn't Diablo 4, I'm still excited about this. I want to go play this. And a lot of people had that sentiment. And the general sentiment of the audience was just mocking, like that sort of thing, like very, very, very negative. And I did not like that, right? And so obviously it didn't go well, right? Played the game. The demo is actually really good. If they had shipped the game, I think back then, I think it would have been a very, very good, maybe, top of the App Store, like sort of ARPG. A lot of people would have really liked it, but I don't think it would be the best, biggest ARPG ever. I don't think it would have hit the heights that I'm now talking about, right? With controller support, PC support, with the Rite of Exile, Shadows, Immortals, Challenge of the Immortal, like all this other content, the Heliquary raids, 8-player Heliquary raids, all the social systems that they've added to the game since then. I don't think it would have been the best ARPG of all time. And now we're looking at something that potentially is going to blow every other ARPG out of the water now.
Yep. I wanted to get your take real quick. I mean, before we wrap up, I don't know how long you got, but just something I wanted to I think it's kind of weird to me, the timing of like, they've got Diablo 4 coming kind of right after Diablo Immortal. Like they go like 14 years without a Diablo game, and then they kind of have like 2 Diablo games like gonna compete with each other. It's kind of weird to me that they would do 2 of them kind of like this right away.
I mean, I don't know where you're getting your info. I haven't heard any Diablo 4 news besides the quarterly announcements, right?
That's what I mean, though. Like obviously we're getting a Diablo 4 game semi soon. I mean, it could be 2 years, but but
I mean, it could be like later this year. It could be 2 years. It could be, I don't know, Blizzard. It could be 5 years. I remember when they announced Overwatch and they were like, we're gonna do a beta in January, and then it was 2.5 years until they did a beta, right? And so like I don't even know if these launches will even be close. It's too early to call, I think, on D4.
we probably got like, what do you think, 2025, 2026 for D4? No problem. 4 more years for D4 sounds about right.
I mean,
We'll get an
maybe.
alpha.
I guess that could be what they're gonna do. They're gonna ride Diablo Immortal for a few years, and then at that point, relaunch the hype with Diablo 4.
I will say this though, and this is just totally my opinion. I do think that a lot of the systems that are in Diablo Immortal are a scientific testing ground for some of the systems in Diablo 4. So for example, because they've talked about this in the quarterly updates. So for example, essence transfer in Diablo Immortal allows you to take a legendary power, extract it at the essence transfer vendor, and then overwrite a legendary power on another legendary that you pick up. So that way you can like get a better statted item and then use the power that you actually want and like infuse it, right? So
That's
it's
really cool,
a
actually.
really cool system. Yeah. And then, you know, a few months later, there's a quarterly update for Diablo 4, and they're like, hey, by the way, you can infuse your legendary powers with this thing. This was very popular in the Diablo Immortal beta, and we're doing it in Diablo 4. You know, like, so I think what we're gonna see is maybe
That's a
like
pretty
a
spot
more
on voice for the Diablo like announcing guy voice, you know? Like that's pretty spot on.
We'll see this like more in-depth version of some of the things that we're getting in Immortal. That's my opinion. And so if when Immortal comes out, if a lot of players are like, this is the best thing ever, we only play this game mode, we do this all day with our clan, with our warband, whatever, then I think there's a good chance that something very similar to that will make it into D4.
Yeah, one positive thing about the warband they could be thinking from their side is it might drive people to like stay a little bit more active, to not let people down, because there's kind of a catch-22, like yes, it's going to be a little bit more savage, and you don't want to, but at the same time, people will have more of an incentive of like, oh, I don't want to let the other 7 people down. Like they're really counting on me. I got to log in and do my dailies, so they might be trying to kind of incentivize that.
Yeah, that's sort of getting into sort of like the DAUs, the daily active users, and like little bit of like mobile style, like FOMO mechanics and things like that some people like to rip on. Yeah, there is that in this game. I think if you didn't say that you would be disingenuous, right? So there is some of that stuff, like, oh, my friends in my warband, they're doing their Heliquary raid for the week, and I'm not there, and I'm not going to get the rewards, or like I'm not helping them out and they need me. And so like you call your buddy up on Discord and say like, hey man, we really need the 8th, like get in here, like that sort of thing. Yeah, I think there's some of that going on, for better or worse, you know.
Yeah, it'll be a mixed bag, you know. It'll be great for some and rough for some, but it's hard to make any perfect system.
I definitely think this game, I mean, to some extent, it's a Diablo game, right? It's going to compete with Diablo 4 on some extent. But to another extent, like Diablo 4 won't ever be optimized for a phone, right? It'll be like 100 gigabyte download that you have to install on your PC with the TI, 3090 or whatever. Like, I don't think that will work on your phone. So like, there's a broad swath of people who will never play Diablo 4, and they will play Immortal, and they'll like the idea of 4, and they'll watch people on Twitch and YouTube play Diablo 4, but they'll be playing Immortal. There'll be people that play both. I will probably play both.
Yeah, I mean, any Diablo game that comes out, we're gonna try it,
And there will be people that will never ever play Immortal. They've like taken a blood oath to never play any games on their phone ever, and they're averse to it even now that it's on PC, because it's designed for a mobile game. So there's those kinds of folks as well.
Yeah, mobile
microtransactions. Yeah,
it still has a very bad stigma. Like I play a lot of Age of Empires 4, and I see the content creators over there talking about things like Diablo Immortal and that new Warcraft mobile game, and these RTS players talk like, look at this mobile trash. Like, I'm like, so yeah, there is definitely still that stigma that like your FPS gamers and your RTS gamers kind of like look down their nose at like some of these mobile games.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're playing a game that looks like people that denigrate RTSs. I've heard, you know, call it micro machines.
Yeah.
Remember Micro Machines when you were a kid? The little
You're playing with micro machines. You're playing with little Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
Dude, oh, those were so good. I had so many of them. You get like the little tank, the little Micro Machine. They were like metal and everything. And when you were walking around as a little toddler, you'd try to swallow them, and then your parents would have to take you to the ER.
I think I might have just revealed my age. So.
Yeah, man. We're both in our 30s, right?
We're all there. We're all there. I was playing Diablo 1, so
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the gaming back then was a little bit different. When I played Diablo 1, I wasn't allowed to play Diablo 1. So I rode my bike to my friend's house who had Diablo 1 on his Windows 98 PC.
There you go. Your
time.
friend was uptown.
And yeah. And we just sat in his computer room and watched him play because we couldn't play. And we turned all the lights off to make it like dark and spooky. And I mean, going back, you're like, this game is not that scary. But I don't know. Back then it was scarier than it is now. It was just scary in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember being like 11, and I would sit next to my friend while he played, and it was his job to play, and I would just do the potions. That was my job. I'm like, dude, I got you. When your health gets low, when your mana gets low, I'll hit it at the perfect time. You just focus on playing perfect. And that's how me and my friend played Diablo 1.
What a god. The game that made me cry when I was a kid that I thought was scary was Metroid. I watched my dad play Super Metroid like over his shoulder, and he got to Mother Brain right, and I'm like, oh man, I must have been like, what, 4 or 5 or something. I'm trying to think how old I would have been at that point. And I'm watching them play Super Metroid, right? And then like the head that lands on the ground like grows into Mother Brain, and I just instantly I'm like, ah, it's terrifying. And I got like running into my room crying. My parents made fun of me for the rest of my life for that.
That music is actually pretty terrifying. It's
the whole Super Metroid, best game ever made.
It's
so good.
spooky.
It's
spooky,
so good.
legit.
And it's like a dark themed game. It's one of those games that would just allow it to be like a huge dark theme. It didn't care if you didn't like that, and it didn't hold your hand. It's just, you don't know what to do. You can't go in that door. Sucks to suck. Like, go figure it out. You know, it's called a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask also. Like, how much hand holding is there in Diablo Immortal? Like when you start out the game?
That's a great question.
There's a lot. And to someone who is like a veteran game player, you're not gonna like a lot of the hand holding. You're gonna be hitting the skip button a good amount.
You're gonna roll your eye like, oh, come on.
Yeah, there's gonna be a thing where they're like, hey, did you know that your skill, you got a new one? Did you know you could tap on that? And you can be like, yeah, I knew that. And then you tap on, and then they're going to make you tap on it for the notification to go away. And you tap on it, and they're like, great, now tap on this other thing so you can do, yeah. There's some of that, and the good news is that once you progress to max level, you get past all of it, and then all that stuff kind of fades into the background. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah. We're the mobile gamer experts, and we'll tell you for a fact, all of these games have those garbage things. They're like, here,
yeah, especially the first like day.
Circle, like, click on this, and now click on that. Now clip this piece of gear. Now wear this unicorn hat. And then you're like 15 minutes later, you're like, okay, great, I gotta play the game.
I think a lot of the gacha type games we play do it as a mechanic to fight like the botting and re-rolling of accounts. So they have like a 30-minute tutorial to make it harder for like. Yeah,
that's probably
so they don't re-roll together.
I think people quit phone games more than anything due to the frustration, because you just slide up, you're like, I'm just done with this shit, and you just slide up and close out of the app, and then you just delete it off your phone. You never do it again. Like the second you're frustrated, it's gone off your phone. Like that's what happens with these games. So you have to make sure that you know what the fuck you're doing by the time you actually get to the real game, or else as soon as someone's like, I don't know what to do, they just quit instead of looking at that. Just
I've done that on random little like tower defense games I've tried to play. It's like I run into the first stupid thing, and I'm like, yeah, see ya.
Yep. I do it too.
Like like one more ad that I can handle. Like,
Yeah.
I can watch maybe one ad, but
Oh,
2 ads in a
Echo
row,
Hack, is there
no.
anything like
no,
that?
There's no ads.
Is there
There's
any
no
like
ads.
watch this ad for double XP
Nope.
for 30 minutes?
Nope. No ads. No watch this fake game ad for an XP bonus. Nothing like that.
Yeah, because that's like the new meta for these mobile games. They all advertise for each other and they give like boosts in their games while they cross advertise.
You finish
And
a rift,
I
pop up. Go
I
ahead.
will tell you why they will never do that. Because Diablo Immortal is going to be the #1 thing on the App Store for forever. It's
Man, you
it's
are
gonna be the
really
#1 game.
confident about this game, bro. I gotta tell you,
But
you are
they know-
selling this hype train.
You're selling
You're,
it.
you're
You-
shoveling
they
the
know.
coal in, dude. You're just like, let's
Coal-
go, all aboard.
Echo Hack, just
but they know. That's why they don't need the ads.
Someone clip
Like,
it. Someone clip
they're
it.
gonna
We'll
be at
play
the
it for
top.
Echo Hack in a year.
I kind of believe it on this though, because I mean, if you even look at it, like the amount of quality systems they have in this stuff on launch, dude, is ridiculous. And it's going to be in the Battle.net launch. Which game has come out with controller support and a PC client day one?
Genshin, maybe.
Okay, Genshin's a good comparison.
yeah,
actually,
Genshin.
because that was cross-platform also.
But Genshin was
on
also a
Sony as well.
massive success.
It was. That's true.
This is
Genshin
going to be
was.
as big as Genshin, except it's not going to be like Genshin.
Weeb.
Genshin is a thirst trap, okay, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people play that game because booba, right? And
Bingo.
this game, you play it because it's a good game. That's why you play it. So Genshin might be one of the most popular thirst traps of all time, but Immortal's going to be the most popular like mobile game,
I
actual
feel very
game.
called out
of
right
all
now,
time.
by the way. Because even though here's the thing, even though I was bitching earlier about like, I need to be able to play as a guy for some reason for me, like, you're 100% correct. Be like, I got Booba Girl. Like, you know what I mean? I want more Booba Girl. Give it to me. Let me play as this hero. Let me jiggle physics. Unfortunately, you are correct about that. And here's a guess for you on one thing. The other thing about Genshin is it's a thirst trap for gambling addicts. So it's like people like me who like to go in and just dump the money in, right? Whereas Diablo, you're buying power. Genshin, you're buying dopamine. They're completely separate entirely. And for one hero, I wanted to max out one hero. So I said, I'm going to max out Child because he was the well guy. It's literally a well icon and everything for him. So I'm like, I'm going to do the water well guy. That makes sense. It's the well pod, right? I got my well pod art all up here and stuff. So I'm like, we're like, let's do it, boys. I maxed him out, and with his weapon, it cost me $3,350 for one goddamn hero in a game where you need to bring 4 with you in your party and swap between them all the time. Just to get him at the max level. Just to buy it.
Yeah, it's a whole new world in these gacha
Lot.
games. Have you ever even played them, Echo Hack?
Oh, I have. Yeah, I have a few on my phone. In fact, the past year and a half has been a bit of a transformation for me where I started playing mobile games and I'm like, do I like this now? What's it's like I had like a moment where I'm like looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, am I a mobile gamer now? Is this what I do?
We all
This
have that
feels
moment of
weird.
self-reflection.
This feels
happened?
weird. But yeah, I've been playing a few. One that I really like that I play moderately casually is called Near Reincarnation.
I keep hearing about that one.
Oh, yeah.
It's an auto battler, right? So you don't actually play the game so much as you just like pull up an Excel spreadsheet and then you're like, this is how I'm gonna get the most of the things, right? And like I said, I played Eve back in the day, so this appeals to me. And
You
then
and Brad
you
are
just
going to get along great.
you just put the phone on your desk and you let it play.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like watching someone else play Final Fantasy, except it's your characters and they're earning stuff like that. And the other thing is it has a really interesting story. I mean, you play through the story once and that's it, but like the story's pretty cool. I really enjoy that part of it. And
Yeah,
the
it's an
music
interesting shift.
Music is top tier. Yeah.
I had to focus on Age of Empires 4 for a while to prove my street cred again in the gaming sphere.
Yeah.
So
Street cred.
can't be a mobile gamer only for 5 years.
Yeah, man, we all did kind of become mobile gamers out of nowhere. Like, I mean, I'm not a mobile gamer. Like, that's never how I started either. I mean, I went Star Wars to Raid and into whatever other ones I dabbled in, and now it's Diablo Immortal. And what, it's 3 years, 4 years I've been playing phone games, I feel like. 4 years? Is that how long we've been in this business, boys?
Oh yeah, I mean about 3.5. But let's I'm gonna start wrapping up soon here. So before we go, if there's anybody in the chat that has a burning question we didn't get to that you would like us to ask Echo Hack, I'd be more than happy to. Or if there's anything that either any of you would like to just cover real quick here before we wrap up, I'm happy to do that as well. I think we got a plethora of info here though, and I know I learned a lot, so I'm super thankful.
I could ask questions literally all day.
Yeah, no, I could sit here for 12 hours and because like
ask stuff, yeah, all day.
A plethora.
Yeah, we'll have to maybe do this again because we didn't even talk. Like everything we talked about was basically up till about level 40.
Yeah,
we didn't really get past that.
Yeah, I'm down. We can all touch base again next weekend and think of more questions and talk again. And yeah, I'm always down to hang out and
part 2, baby.
Yeah, we can do a part 2 next weekend and theory craft some more questions and topics to dive into and stuff.
June 2nd, boys. Mark your calendar. 24 days.
You can find a countdown on Max. What is it? Maxroll GG.
Immortal.maxroll.gg.
Immortal.maxroll.gg.
Is that your website? Because you mentioned it a good amount. Or is it it's a friend of yours, or who runs the Maxroll thing?
So I'm one of the content creators on the Immortal team.
Okay.
Maxroll is basically a coalition of some of the best Diablo content creators, and now we also do Lost Ark and I think Path of Exile at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
It's really ARPG focused, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Very nice. Cool.
All right, links in the description.
Yep.
Like, comment, subscribe.
I'll put it again. I'll put it again here. There's make sure and hit up the Twitter right there and the YouTube channel right there, and then we'll chop this up, throw it on YouTube as well on a few of our channels, and definitely try to promote you as well as we can because you have a lot of knowledge on this game. And
well, I'll make one prediction. I can tell you right now, because just looking at your data as compared to like the pop off with Marvel, like you say, Diablo is going to be 55 billion times bigger than Marvel ever could have even imagined it, in my opinion. And look, I bet you go to 2 or 3 million views the first month, easy, just like that. Yeah. That'd be my guess, for real.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Just
wow.
Yeah, like
yeah, we're talking like 10 grand of ad revenue, probably month 1, I would assume.
Because it's a mobile game.
Well, we don't know what the CPM is going to be. Sorry, now we're getting into the nerdy YouTuber stuff.
The YouTuber nerdy stuff.
We don't know what the CPM is going to be, Darth, but none of that's outlandish. Yeah, that's realistic.
That's my casual guess. Yeah. And you deserve it. You deserve it.
Yeah,
So the reason I say that is because the people who are watching this later in the VOD, because I've been recording this 3 hours, it's too good of information, is you legitimately, if you watch this on my channel or Brad's channel or wherever, whoever's version of edited, whatever, like you got to go subscribe to Echo Hack because literally he's backpacking us through 3 hours of content. We got Cobra eating fucking sushi sitting here while this guy's answering questions, just everything. So give the man who's helping us some due and go subscribe to the channel and support them. And with that being said, I'm gonna hit stop recording and goodbye.
Alrighty, and again, massive shout out to Echo Hack for taking the time to join me. A link to his channel is down below. Highly recommended from me, and this video has already been long enough, so I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.